The alarm clock sounds in my ear as I try to reach over to turn the damn thing off. It's 5 o'clock on a Monday morning in February 2010. I need to get out of bed and head to the construction site where I currently work. My name is Jason Jones. I'm a 26-year-old electrician working in Anaheim, California, and if I don't hurry up, I'm going to be late. As I walk into the lunchroom, I see that one of my best friends, Jonas, is already here. We went to the local high school together, as did our other best friend, Shane. After graduation, Jonas and I decided to pursue trades, with Jonas becoming a carpenter. Shane, on the other hand, started his career as a sales representative. He was never the hands-on type like Jonas and I. Hey Jason, are you ready for another fun week? Yeah, if that's what you call fun. By the way, how were you Sunday morning? Saturday night you were really diligent about cleaning up your booze, I asked him. I was fine. Janie made me a nice breakfast yesterday morning to help me recover, replied Jonas. I wonder if Shane got the same treatment from Becky too. He must have been a bit worse, I reply. Well, he shouldn't have switched to Fireball cocktails after drinking vodka all night. It's not going to end well, Jonas replies as we walk outside to get to work. Both of my best friends recently got married. Jonas married his wife Janie just over 6 months ago, and Shane's marriage to Becky has been going on for a year and a half. Shane and Becky were the first of us to start dating. They started dating about 3 years ago, and Jonas and Janie and myself and my now ex-fiance, Talia, started dating about 6 months after that. We broke up with Talia 3 months ago after I found out that bitch was cheating on me with her boss just 2 months before our wedding. While I've been dealing with this for the past few months, I was surprised on Saturday night when Shane started trying to get me to reconsider my decision to get back with Talia, when all three of us went out for drinks. I can only assume that his wife Becky put him up to it, since Jonas and I were always pouring out a barrage of shit on Shane, telling him he was her bitch. So Becky has a very strong-willed personality. She always seems to think she can make other people do what she wants, and Shane is always willing to comply to make her happy. After we started dating our 3 girlfriends a few years ago, they quickly became best friends too. Whenever us 3 blokes went out for a beer or to watch football, our 3 girlfriends would spend that time with each other. So I can see why Becky wants me to make up with Talia. Maybe she misses one of her best friends. But Shane? He knows that bitch cheated on me just 2 months before we got married. I doubt he'd want to make up with Becky if she cheated on him instead. Over lunch, I talked to Jonas about Shane asking me to give Talia another chance. Can you believe what Shane told me Saturday night? As a matter of fact, we all talked a lot of shit that night. About Talia. That maybe I should think about giving her another chance and that everyone screws up from time to time, that she's sorry and still wants me back. Really? I don't get it. I guess Becky put him up to it. Jonas replies, which makes me smile. I was just thinking the same thing. I can understand why Becky would want me to take her back so she could hang out with her mate again, but Shane? You may not know this, but Becky and Janie have been hanging out with Talia since you two broke up. They're still best friends anyway. Then if Becky doesn't care if I go back to Talia or not, why does Shane? Also, how awkward can this be? What's going to happen when I get a new girlfriend? They're going to hate her because they're still best friends with my ex. Who knows? But I don't think you should take her back. I certainly wouldn't. She even brought her new boyfriend Steve with her the last time we got together. What the hell? You hung out with my ex and the guy she cheated on me with? I asked Jonas incredulously. Well, it wasn't just me and Janie. Shane and Becky were there with us too. And in my defense, I didn't know that Talia would be there, or who Steve was and that he would be joining us too. So Talia is cheating on me, and my 2 best friends are hanging out with the guy my ex cheated on me with. You should have told her to back off, and at the same time you should have told me to go off on him. Well, I didn't realize who he was at first. I just thought it was someone new she'd met. But you realized that while you were sitting with him, right? Yes. I talked to Janie about it afterwards, that she shouldn't have put me in that situation. I made it clear to her that I didn't like it, and that it would never happen again. Jonas almost pleads. That's just weakness. Becky and Janie seem to want to keep Talia in our group and leave me behind. Just remember that the 3 of us are the only reason they know each other at all. And you two definitely shouldn't hang out with my ex and whoever she's dating now, especially the guy she screwed me with. Yeah, I'm not arguing. But I still don't understand why Shane would talk to me about getting back together with her if he knows she's still dating her boss. I'll need to talk to him. Sure, but remember that Becky wears the trousers in their marriage. Be gentle with him. Jonas laughs back. On Wednesday after work, I arranged to meet Shane for a beer at a bar called Sinners, which is not far from my house. I've heard the place is a bit like a brothel at night, but it's not too bad during the day. Well, that's, according to Shane, I've never been there. When I go inside, I think the place really looks like a dive bar. It's more of a club than a bar, and the decor and ambiance definitely lends itself to that. I quickly spot Shane sitting alone at a table and walk over to him. Hey Shane, how about a drink? Hey Jason, can you get me a light beer? I'm driving. Sure, I reply, leaving the table and walking over to the bar. The bartender is a woman about our age. I'd guess she's about 25, quite attractive, with short blonde hair and beautiful green eyes. I also notice that when she looks up at me, she looks at Shane, and then back at me. Why do I get the feeling that she knows him? One bourbon on the rocks and a light beer for my gay friend, thank you, I tell her, smiling at my little joke. Coming right up, she replies, pulling out our drinks. I should have known Shane likes light beers, but Becky must have castrated him well. The attractive bartender jokes with me as she returns with our drinks. Wait, you know Shane and Becky? I ask. Yeah, of course I do. Becky was one of my best friends in high school. I giggle at her answer, which means she knows Shane isn't gay after all. I'm Rose, by the way, and you are? Jason, nice to meet you. Ah, Jason, who was going to marry Talia? It's nice to finally meet you too. Is there something Shane didn't tell you about? Shane didn't tell me that. Talia did. I know her and Janie, as well as Becky. Don't worry, I won't tell her you were here with your gay friend. Rose giggles and I smile and shake my head before turning back to Shane. I didn't know you were a regular here, Shane. What makes you think that? Rose, behind the bar. She knows all of you except me, I think. She probably doesn't know Jonas either, replies Shane. Still, why would you come here? Isn't this a hookup establishment? It seems like it. I don't really come here that often, only sometimes with Becky. She likes to drink and dance here from time to time. And it doesn't bother you that you're taking her to a place where she's likely to spend all night and get hit on by random guys? Does it bother you? What? With Talia. She always came here with Becky too. So did it bother you? This is the first I'm hearing about it. But yeah, if I had known, it would have. But whatever, she's not my problem anymore. So I want to tell you why I wanted to catch up with you. Why were you trying to get me to bring Talia back Saturday night if you already know she's still dating her boss? The same guy she cheated on me with. What the hell was all that about? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Becky and I thought you both would be happier if you could get back together. You mean Becky thought that and you just did what you were told? I smile crookedly at my friend. That's low. Besides, Becky said Talia was sorry about what happened and that she'd dump Steve if you agreed to take her back. Maybe she'll dump him first and then come crawling back to me herself. But no. Instead, she got you through Becky to try and do your dirty work while she's still with the boss. So do me a favor. Tell Becky that you won't talk to me about Talia anymore, and that if Talia ever wants forgiveness, she can ask for it herself. Would you give it to her? Hell no. But it would be fun to watch her beg for it before I tell that whore to go screw herself. I guess Talia already realized that too, which is why Becky wanted me to ask you out instead, replies Shane to me. Yeah, whatever you say. But don't talk to me about her anymore, okay? And what are you guys doing hanging out with her anyway? And don't even tell me you're going out for drinks altogether, but instead with Talia and Steve. That's kind of bloody low. She's Becky's friend too, you know. That doesn't mean you have to join them. If 3 girls want to keep hanging out, let them. But I expected my 2 best friends not to hang out with my ex and her new boyfriend. I wouldn't want to hang out with Becky if you guys broke up and she found a new boyfriend. None at all. I understand, and don't worry, I'll talk to Becky. I think the 3 girls just want things to stay the same and we're hoping Jonas and I would agree with them. Okay, fine. I don't want to upset you, but this whole thing with Talia is bugging me. Yeah, I understand. Look, I've got to go. I just got a call about an urgent client meeting that will start shortly while you were at the bar. I need to get back to the office. Okay, are you still up for Saturday night? I ask Shane as he gets up to leave. Yeah, sure. I'll see you then, Jason. Finishing my bourbon, I decide to have another drink or 2 while I'm here. Maybe I'll sit at the bar and chat with the pretty blonde bartender, Rose. Maybe find out what else she knows. Another one? Asks Rose as I sit down on a stool by the bar. Yes, thank you. As she pours me a drink, I remember that she said she knows Talia, Janie, and Becky, and that she was Becky's best friend in high school. I wonder if she is still best friends with Becky now and how well she knows the other two. So, did you go to school with Becky? What was she like back then? Still the same, manipulating everyone to do what she wanted? Yeah, she didn't change much. What about Talia and Janie? Did you meet them here through Becky? At this point, Rose raises a finger up to let me know that our conversation has been postponed, as there are a few other customers at the bar wanting a drink. Having served them, she turns back to me as I can see more people approaching the bar as the place gets busier and busier. I'm sorry, but I don't have time to sit and chat with you right now. Do you have anyone else? Asks me Rose when she gets a moment. No, Shane just left. I meant, do you have a girlfriend? Oh no. Well, how about we meet tomorrow for a cup of coffee? Are you asking me out on a date? I reply with a cheeky smirk. No, I just wanted to make sure I don't piss off your girlfriend if you have one. So, coffee? Yeah, sure. How about we do it at lunchtime? I start work early, but I'm not far from here. There's a cafe at the end of this block. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock? Deal, I reply, watching the attractive blonde go about her business, smiling at the other customers as she serves them. I decide to leave after having my drink. I'm looking forward to talking to Rose tomorrow, even if she swears it's not a real date. Next chapter. As I walk into the cafe, I hear my name being called. I turn round and see a pretty Rose waving at me. She looks even sexier than she did at the bar, and with the natural light coming through the windows, I can see how beautiful she is. Hey Rose, you look great tonight. Starting with the flattery, I can tell. How about we go and order ourselves lunch instead? Rose replies with a sweet smile. How about you? Already ordered, you're late. Yeah, sorry about that. I was busy this morning on the website, I reply, walking up to the counter to place my order. Whilst waiting to be served, I can't help myself and look at Rose again. I notice that she has a small, intricate tattoo on her right forearm, going down to her wrist, and another small tattoo on her neck. Other than that, she's just amazingly nice to look at. She's definitely attractive, with those beautiful green eyes and a wonderful smile when she decides to show it off, and her breasts seem to be a decent size for such a skinny girl. Maybe I have a chance, who knows? Having placed my order, I sit down in front of Rose again, and she looks up from her phone for a moment, then looks at it again. So, Rose, why did you decide to meet me here tonight if it's not a date? I ask cheekily. Rose looks up from her phone and puts it down on the table. You're the one who wanted to find out about your ex and her friends. I'm only here to answer your questions. You didn't need to arrange to meet me here for that. You could have just told me about it last night at the bar. Why did you really invite me here? Be honest with me. Rose's eyes narrow slightly, as if she's pouting at me a little. When she does that, it makes her even prettier. You asked me last night how I knew Talia and Janie. Maybe I knew them through Becky. The answer is yes. I got to know Becky first. See, it only took you 5 seconds to say that. Admit it, you only asked to meet me here because you want me, didn't you? I reply with another cheeky smirk, but Rose doesn't seem too impressed with my words. So, you don't want to know anything more about them? No, to be honest, I don't really care about Talia right now. We broke up 3 months ago after I found out she was sleeping with her boss. So, the fact that she was cheating on you long before she met her current boss doesn't bother you either. Wait, what are you saying? That Talia cheated on me with other guys before she met her boss? God, you're a hustler. I can see why she picked you, replies Rose sarcastically. Hey, give me a break. I'm just a little surprised, okay? How do you even know she cheated on me? I've known Talia for about 4 years now, even before she started dating you. I've watched her go home with a lot of handsome guys in that time. Rose replies and then looks at her phone again. What a goddamn bitch, I reply almost under my breath. Well, now you realize you dodged a bullet, don't you? Imagine finding all this out after you'd already married her, continued Rose. Yes, to hell with it. And yet I find it hard to believe that she cheated on me the whole time we were together. Are you sure? Yes. I've seen all 3 of them leave my club with more guys over the past few years. Wait, you mean Becky and Janie were cheating on Shane and Jonas too? You really should have become a brain surgeon with powers like yours, Rose replies, smirking. Hey, can we stop being smart? We're talking about my best friend's marriage here. I just hope you're not making shit up. Rose put the phone down again, sighing as she did so. Okay, let me explain it to you, because you seem to be slowing down a bit. Becky, Talia, and Janie are all sluts. Always have been and always will be. They married the three of you to set up house, look respectable, and have you pay for everything while they continue to have fun on the side. Is that clear enough for you, or do you need me to draw pictures too? Why are you acting like a bitch to me now? Why were you acting like a jerk, thinking I only invited you here because I wanted you? Okay, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, I reply. You think? Okay, how about we start over, I reply, shaking my head slightly. Hi, I'm Jason Jones. I'm a 26-year-old electrician and I've just been dumped by my fiance, who I've been with for 2.5 years, I add, holding out my hand to Rose. Rose sighs again and extends her hand to shake mine. Hi, Jason. I'm Rose Williams. I'm a 25-year-old bar manager, and I've been watching you get screwed over by your fiance for the last 2.5 years. It's nice to meet you. Good. Now you can tell me all about it without hating me as much as Talia does. Sure. What do you want to know, Jason? You just said that all three of them were sluts together before they even met us, but that's not true. They only know each other through me and my two best friends after we started dating each of them. No, they were best friends before they met either of you, replies Rose. I sit here shaking my head. None of this makes any sense. As far as I know, they only met each other as our girlfriends, and Rose says they were already best friends. You don't get it, do you? They played a prank on you and your mate Jonas. Becky, Talia, and Janie were already best friends when Becky first met Shane and they started dating. When Becky met you and Jonas, she decided to set you up with her two best friends. That way they could still hang out together, but more importantly, they could also have fun with other guys together. She even bragged to me about it. So Talia only got together with me because I was Shane's best friend? And it's the same with Janie and Jonas. Yeah, they were laughing about how perfect everything was. Why are you telling me this? I thought you were still best mates with Becky too. No, I stopped being best friends with Becky in high school, and I never liked Talia and Janie at all. I just smile and pretend to like them when they're chatting at the bar. You'd be surprised how much people say to you when they think you're their friend, and even a little drunk. Rose giggled. But I still don't understand why you're telling me this now. What's in it for you? Why does it have to be something for me? Maybe I just don't like the way they play you for fools. But you don't even know us. Well, me and Jonas anyway. Have you mentioned that to Shane? Why would I? He's been in on this little charade from the beginning. I'll bet if you remember, Shane was the one you were with when you first met Talia, wasn't he? I had to think for a moment, but yeah, she's right. Are you saying that Shane helped Becky set me and Jonas up with her two best friends? Yes. Well, maybe I'd just call it being a good friend, I reply. Unless he knew they were both sluts and that they were already planning on having fun with other guys while they were dating you both. I don't know. I find that hard to believe. And you find it hard to believe that Shane is usually at my bar too when Becky finds a guy to have fun with, and she does it right in front of him? And then the three of them leave together to go back to their house for the night? What the hell? You're kidding, right? Number she's slept with a lot of guys right in front of Shane. She dances with them and kisses them right in his face. She treats him like a piece of shit. Screw me. I always joke that she's the boss in their relationship, but I had no idea things were that crazy. That's why he set you and Jonas up with Talia and Janie, so you two couples would be in the same situation as he and Becky. It's just that both of you, unlike him, clearly didn't realize what was going on. I'm going to kill him. Don't be too hard on him, Jason. Becky has long since bent him to her will. He's got no balls left. But that's no goddamn excuse. He's supposed to be our best friend, and he helped set us up with two whores he knew would entertain us, and all the while he hasn't said anything to us. Look at it from his point of view. He loves Becky and will do anything to keep her. Having his best mates with her best mates ensures that she will never leave him. I'm sure that's what Becky would tell him. She'd tell him that you and Jonas will be happy with her mates, so there's no harm in that? The harm is that he knew all along that they were cheating on us and said nothing. He lost us as friends forever because of it. Well, he was always taking risks. I guess you both would find out eventually. But I wouldn't have found out if you hadn't told me all this. Again, why exactly are you telling me this? Seriously. I have my reasons. Come on. You should share them with me after you drop the bombs. No, not now. But maybe later when we get to know each other better, Rose replies as I lean back in my chair for a moment, looking into her lovely green eyes. See? I knew it. You really want me. I answer her with my cheeky smirk again, just unable to hold back. Rose shakes her head, but this time she smiles back at me. Progress, I think. Next chapter. Thursday night I was trying to think of what to say to Jonas. How do I gently explain to my best friend so he doesn't lose his temper that the woman he loves, the woman he recently married, is nothing but a cheating whore? Honestly, hell, I don't know. When we left for work on Friday morning, I asked Jonas to come with me to the neighboring bar where Rose works for a beer on his lunch break. He was reluctant at first, but I persisted enough to persuade him and eventually he agreed. Rose gave me a strange look as we both walked into the bar and took our seats behind the counter. Maybe Rose could back me up on what I was about to tell him. Jason, what the hell are we doing here? Beer at lunchtime? You know we're not supposed to get drunk on the job. We'll just have one drink each and then grab a bite to eat on the way back, I reply. Fine, Jonas replies as Rose walks over to take our order. I wait for her to serve us and leave before continuing the conversation. Have you ever been to this bar before? I ask him. No, although it's more like a club, it's a bit empty. Yeah, it's usually more crowded at night. Do you know Becky, Talia, and Janie come here sometimes? Number, why would they come here? To be honest, it looks a bit run down. It is. It's a well-known place to get laid. People come here when they want to have a drink, dance a bit, and find someone to get laid, I reply to Jonas. So why did 3 girls come here then? Well, what if I told you that Becky is cheating on Shane and that he knows all about it? Really? Are you sure? Replies Jonas, looking at me incredulously. Yeah, he even comes here sometimes with Becky while she's out picking up a guy for the night. Shit, you're messing with me. Seriously? Seriously, I reply. Wow, I mean, I knew something was a little weird with those two, but I never thought in a million years that's what was going on between them. Yeah, you and me both. I chuckle lightly. Why does he put up with that shit? Asks Jonas, still trying to figure it out. I don't know, but I know he's okay with it. I also know that he knew about Talia cheating on me long before I found out. Shit, really? And he didn't tell you? Number, not a bloody word. Why hasn't he said anything? What's he trying to do? Probably trying to make Becky happy, I guess. What does that have to do with Becky? Asks Jonas. Talia and Becky were best friends before I even met her. Shane helped set me up with Talia from the beginning. He also knew she was planning on cheating on me from the beginning, just like Becky did with him. Jonas looks at me, and I can see by the look on his face that he's struggling to take it all in. The fact that one of our best friends had been lying to us all this time came as a shock to him as it did to me. How did you meet Janie again? Didn't you meet her at the dance club? I continued. Yeah, she came up to our table and asked if I wanted to dance with her, replies Jonas. And you were with Shane, right? Yes, I was. Same thing happened when I first met Talia. You know Becky, Talia and Janie were best friends before they even met any of us, Shane included. What? That can't be true. It is. That's why you and I were friends with Janie and Talia from the beginning, because we were best friends with Shane, and they were already best friends with Becky. Really? Why didn't they tell us that? Why pretend they only met after they started dating us? So we wouldn't know what they were doing before we met them, and what they were doing after we met them. Wait, what are you saying? That Becky and Talia have been coming to this bar for years, picking up guys to have fun with. Whenever we hung out together, they came here to do their thing. But Janie was with them too. Yeah, the 3 of them used to come here. But she didn't do that shit, no way. I'm sorry, Jonas. I found out yesterday and I should have told you. I can't sit around like Shane has been doing all this time. What the hell? You're telling me my wife has been having fun with me the whole time I've known her? Are you serious? Jonas is almost yelling at me when Rose walks up to us again. Hey guys, keep it down. There may not be many people here, but I don't want you two fighting in a bar, Rose tells us in a firm voice. We're not fighting. I just broke the bad news to him, I reassure Rose. About Janie, I suppose, replies Rose. How the hell do you know my wife? Jonas angrily lashes out at Rose. I've known her longer than you have, you jerk. Rose spits back. Okay, you two stop it. Rose, you're no help here. I just told him his wife is cheating on him. Don't get in his way. Rose looks at me and then back at Jonas. Okay, I'm sorry. But don't take what she did to you out on me. Okay, I'm sorry too. I'm just trying to come to my senses. I can't believe she did this to me. Jonas replies, this time not so angry anymore. Rose, you were here when they came here the last few years? Did they say anything to you about why they were doing this to us? Why they've been deceiving us all this time? I ask. Because they like to have fun with other guys, I don't know. Look, women like those three are the types that most decent guys have fun with, but stay away from when it comes to relationships. I assume they realize that too, which is why they put you in the queue. They wanted to be married, have someone pay for everything, maybe even have kids, but they also wanted to be able to keep having fun. I'm sorry, but you two got screwed big time. And Shane? Jonas asks Rose. No, he knew from the start that Becky was a slut, but he still wanted to be with her. I think that's why he never told you the truth about Talia and Janie. He was probably afraid of losing Becky. That didn't stop him from helping us both to be with them, replies Jonas. Yes, that's what she would have wanted him to do for her. He'd probably agree to anything to keep her, replies Rose. Nah, screw him. He's an arsehole for doing that, replies Jonas. That's what Jason said when he found out too, Rose replies to Jonas. So, what are you going to do now that you know? I ask Jonas. If all of this is true, I'm not going to stay married to that goddamn whore, that's for sure. It's true. Do you need proof? Asks Rose. Yes, of course I do. Why don't you call Janie right now and let her know that you'll be out late tonight drinking with Jason, and I'll call you later when they get here and start partying. Then you two can come here and see everything for yourselves, suggested Rose. I don't need to see Talia having fun. I'm done with her already, I reply. Come with me anyway, you might need to stop me from doing something stupid, replies Jonas. Yeah, okay. Besides, we can go out for a drink like you told them. We'll just stop here for a bit if they turn up, I reply. Oh, they'll turn up? They've been here almost every week since I can remember. Sometimes more than once a week, sometimes. Give me your number, Jason, so I can call you later, Rose adds. Fine, but this is all just an excuse to get my number, isn't it? I still swear you want me. I reply to Rose, showing off my big cheeky grin again. You're pretty damn self-sufficient, Jason, Rose replies, but this time with a beautiful smile on her face. Yes, she wants me. Next chapter. After work, Jonas and I went to a bar near the Sinners Club where Rose works. He told me about how he had been going through emotional ups and downs all day, how he got angry, depressed, and then angry again. I understand exactly how he feels because I was like that just a few months ago. We tried to talk about anything while drinking beer, as if trying to ignore the inevitable. I kept checking messages, but nothing. Around 8 p.m., I get a text from Rose telling me that the girls have arrived at the club and that Shane is with them too. Oddly, I didn't get Rose's number from her, so my phone pops up with her number, not her name. But this isn't the first text I've received from her number. I scroll up the page to see the previous message, and it's the one that first tipped me off that Talia was having fun with her boss. What the hell? I tried texting the number and calling, but never got a single response. That made me start checking up on Talia more thoroughly to make sure the anonymous tip was correct, and that's when I found out that Talia really was cheating on me. So it was Rose who gave me the anonymous tip 3 months ago. It was Rose who gave me, and now Jonas, dirt on everything else. What the hell is she up to? As we pull up to the club, I text Rose to let her know we're almost there. She tells us to come in the back way. She'll let us through the loading dock so we won't be spotted. As we pass all the beer kegs through the back entrance, one of the guards stops us. Are you two Jason and Jonas? Yeah, Rose told you we were coming? Yes, she asked me to show you to the back room. He turns and walks down the corridor, opening the door in front of us. Inside the office are a few chairs, a few lockers, and a bunch of surveillance screens on the wall. Well, this will make it easier to watch them discreetly. Jonas and I take our seats in front of the screens as the guard leaves, closing the office door behind him. We start looking at different screens until Jonas turns his attention to a screen showing 3 women sitting together. There are 2 guys already standing with them, one of whom is Shane. Nothing much happens for the next 10 minutes as suddenly the office door swings open and Rose walks in, carrying several bottles of beer. Hey, I thought you guys might need these. As Rose holds out a bottle of beer to both of us, She takes one too and sits down next to us. Thanks. This job makes me very thirsty, I reply. We all look at the screen again. It's still just the three women sitting at the table, and Shane and another guy standing with them. The bloke with them is called Gary. He's a bit of a player here. He's already hooked up with Becky and Talia. Maybe he'll try it with Janie this time, informs us Rose. I hope so. I want this shit to be over with, replies Jonas. Just don't do anything stupid, okay? It's not Gary's fault they're here to get laid. Whatever happens, I want you to stay calm or else you'll have to be dealt with by security, Rose tells Jonas firmly. Don't worry, I'm not going to go out and start swinging. If she's cheating on me, I'll be happy to get rid of her. Soon, another guy joins their table, who seems to be giving most of his attention to the very receptive Talia. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel jealousy looking at her with him. Even though it's been 3 months, she's still the woman I used to intend to marry. After Talia gets up to dance with her new suitor, Janie follows suit with Gary. While Jonas watches them closely on the dance floor on one screen, I notice on another that Becky has moved away from their table to talk to another guy standing nearby. Shane looks sad as hell, sitting alone, occasionally glancing over at his wife to see her chatting happily with the new guy she's probably going to want soon. But I don't feel sorry for Shane, I just don't. Bitch, I hear quietly from Jonas. I look back at the other screen. Jonas's wife is making out with the guy she's slow dancing with. I don't know what to say to him at this point. At least I've never had to see Talia cheat right in front of me. I ran into her after I found out she went on a date with her boss, but I never saw her with him. I noticed that Talia is now making out with her boyfriend too, and I can still feel the knife turning slightly. Yeah, bitch. Rose gets up and walks back to the bar, grabbing our empty mugs of beer in the process. You two want another beer? I have to get back to work, but I can have one of the guards bring them over here for you. How long do you think it will be before they leave with these guys? Asks Jonas. Rose looks at the other screen where Becky is still chatting with her new boyfriend. Probably not too long. Becky looks like she's found someone for the night. They always leave when she's ready. Rose, can you send 2 more beers over here? Thanks. We'll hang around for a bit until they back off, replies I. Okay, replies Rose, walking out of the office. How's it going? I ask Jonas. How do you think? I can't believe I was such a dumb sucker that she played me the whole time. I had no idea what a damn slut she was. How the hell did I not notice that? Hey, I agree with you. I didn't have a clue either, I reply. At least you weren't married yet. Now I have to worry about a damn divorce. You know she's going to try to take everything I own, right? Yeah, she's going to try. Do you guys have a lot of stuff? I ask Jonas. No, not really. I've been saving up for a deposit so we can buy a house, though, and I have a new work truck. She has nothing but clothes, and I bought her almost everything, too. Maybe there's something you can do before you tell her you're getting a divorce. Maybe you sell your truck, pull out your savings. Well, I don't know. There must be something you can do so she can't get hold of half of it all. Like what? Take all my money out of the bank and hide it somewhere? Well, yes. They'll know I withdrew the money. Hey, do you trust me? I ask Jonas. Yeah, of course I do. Then why don't you sign over your work truck to me? You can drive it, but it will be under my name so she can't touch it. Then transfer all your savings to me, and I'll hold on to them until your divorce is settled. Then, when it's settled, I'll sign the deed and give you back your truck in cash. They'll know where the money went. She'll have access to the bank statements. So what of it? You'll just say you owe me the money, maybe for gambling debts, or we'll come up with some other nonsense. Either way, they'll be in my name before you even break up with her or file for divorce. If we do, you better transfer the whole thing back when the time comes, Jason. I laughed a little at Jonas's statement. That's why I asked if you trust me. Don't worry, I'll never screw you over like Talia and Janie screwed us over. Or Shane, for that matter. Okay, I'll be much happier if she doesn't drive my truck after I divorce her arse. When we look at the screens again, we see Talia and Janie returning to the table where Shane was sitting alone. They are joined at the table by his wife Becky and her new girlfriend. She starts making out with the guy right in front of her husband, and Shane just sits there and watches her do it. I'll never understand him. Can you believe that shit? He's just sitting there watching her with that clown. Jonas adds, he can't understand it either, and neither can I. Yeah, he's a coward and a weak-willed bitch, I reply. Of course, I'm still trying to figure out why he set Janie and Talia and me up like that, why he didn't tell us anything about what they've been up to all this time. Or how he can sit there now and watch his wife have sex with another guy. It's just screwed up. Yeah, screw him. He's not my mate anymore, I reply, as the security guard walks in and hands us 2 more mugs of beer. Soon all 7 of us leave the club together. It's not even 9 p.m. yet. They still have a couple of hours to party before Janie would go home to an oblivious Jonas. But not this time. After finishing our beers, we walk out into the club to sit at the bar again next to Rose. She nods at us as we take our seats and brings us 2 more beers. How much do I owe you? I ask Rose, as she holds out the beers to us. They're on the house tonight, but you can pay for whatever you have. 3 each is my limit for a broken heart. Rose replies with a slight smile and goes back to serving other customers. After that, we both have 2 more beers each before Jonas decides to head home. Hey, just remember, don't say anything to her tonight. Wait until you can transfer your truck and savings. It's Friday. I hope I can do it tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll have to wait until Monday. I don't think I can contain my anger at her that long. Let's see how you can handle the bank tomorrow morning. If you can't, let me know and we'll come up with some excuse to go traveling or something so you'll be away from her and out of the flat. Okay, thanks for all of that, Jason, by the way. Thanks for being a friend and telling me straight away, unlike the other bastard I know. No problem. Don't say anything to Shane if he calls you about tomorrow night. He'll probably tell the girls if you let him. No doubt about it. Okay, I'm off. Bye, Jason. Jonas headed home and I was left sitting at the bar watching Rose, admiring her beauty mostly. But there was something I needed to talk to her about. How's your mate doing? Did he come home? Asks Rose, turning back to me. Yeah, although he's not going to do anything stupid tonight. At least I hope he doesn't. Is he going to leave her? Oh yes, there's no way he's going to stay with her. Anyway, when are you getting out of here? Why? Do you like me? Are you going to ask me out because you want me? Rose replies with a cheeky smile, brushing aside my previous comments. Yes, I like you. In fact, I like you a lot. At least I have the guts to admit it. I reply with my cheeky smile. Would you like me to have balls? Asks Rose with a smirk. God, no. But what time? Give me another hour. The other 2 bartenders can round out the evening while we drink if you want. Not here. I want to take you somewhere else. Is this cafe open at this time of day? Yes, it's open. Good. In an hour then. Rose nods, going back to serving people. I can't resist watching her even more closely. I just love her attitude, her cheekiness, the way she stands up for herself if she doesn't like something. Not to mention how attractive she is and that I'd love to rip her clothes off right now. It's been 3 months after all. An hour later, as I walk out of the club with Rose, a few envious glances are thrown at me by some of the guys. Screw them. Who knows how many of them slept with my ex? Hopefully this one will just be mine. I order 2 coffees before I take my seat and look at her. This time she's not on the phone. This time she's giving me her full attention. Thank you, Rose, I tell her. For what? For coming here with you? No, for letting Jonas and I know what kind of women we were with. For putting us out of further misery. My pleasure. Rose answers a little more honestly than I usually get from her. So, I asked you yesterday why you did this for us, and you said that maybe you'd let me know when we got to know each other a little better. Can you tell me now? Rose stares into my eyes for a few seconds before looking away. She's clearly contemplating whether she should say something or not. I know it was you who told me about Talia. Why? I continue. Rose sighs and turns to face me again. Because she slept with my boyfriend last year. Well, I just had to do it in return. You could have just seduced me to get back at her. Number, I would never do that, replies Rose quickly. What happened to your boyfriend afterwards? I continue. I kicked him out. What else was I supposed to do? So it was all about you getting back at my ex? No, Becky didn't either. She slept with my first boyfriend back in high school. She slept with all the high school boys' boyfriends, so it wasn't a big surprise. Still, I like having fun with her and her friends, even if I can't get back at her with Shane. He's too much of a willing cuckold for me to do anything about them. I just hope she gets some kind of venereal disease and gives it to him as a gift. Rose replies, and then laughs a little. Damn, remind me not to get on your bad side. Besides, I'd be surprised if Becky hasn't given Shane something yet. I reply, laughing along with her. I hope Jonas will be okay. He seems like a nice guy. Neither of you deserved what they did to you both. Yeah, I agree. But if it wasn't for you, we'd still be in the dark about what they were doing. So thank you, Rose. My pleasure again, Rose replies with a wonderful smile again. Rose, can I ask you one more thing? It's a very serious question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer me honestly and frankly, please. Okay, sure. And what is it? Replies Rose, adopting a more serious expression on her face. Well, my question is this. How badly do you want me? I ask with a cheeky grin spreading across my face again. Oh, you bastard. I thought you were being serious, Rose replies, and I start laughing. From the look on your face, I'm sorry I couldn't help myself, I reply, still laughing. Okay, smartass, yes, I want you. Now what are you going to do about it? That silenced me quickly. Was she really serious? Well, I'd like to take you home with me to show you how much I want you right now. Then you better hurry up and finish your coffee before I change my mind, Rose replies with her sexy smile. I quickly reach out and take Rose's hand, whereupon we both hurriedly leave the cafe and head back to my flat. Next chapter. My phone rings and I grab it from the bedside table, fiddling with it for a bit before bringing it up to my face. Jonas, what time is it? I sleepily answer. It's 9:30. Are you still in bed? Seriously? I look round. Lying next to me is a beautiful and still sleeping Rose. Well, some of us had a much later night than others, I guess, I reply, still trying to fully wake up. Look, my bank isn't open on Saturdays and I haven't been able to restrain myself from yelling at Janie all morning. There's no way I can hold out until Monday. Okay, let me get up, take a shower, have a coffee and call you back. In the meantime, go for a run or something, just don't bother her. She's already gone for coffee with the girls. They're probably chatting about their fun last night, comparing notes or some shit. Jonas replies, sounding a little dejected. Okay, let me gather my thoughts and call you back soon. Okay, replies Jonas, and we both hang up. At that moment, I feel Rose move slightly in the bed next to me. I look at her. She's even more beautiful, if that's even possible. It took me about a month of sleeping with Talia before I felt what I already feel now with Rose. I guess some people just have better chemistry. After pouring us some coffee, I called Jonas over. Hey Jonas, I was thinking about what I told you last night about gambling. How about we go to Vegas for the weekend? For real? And right now? Really? You want to really go there? Can't we just say let's go? No, we need bank statements to show you went there, airline tickets, hotel reservations and all that. What are we going to do there, gamble? Replies Jonas. Hell yeah, you'll need to withdraw all your money and buy casino chips with it. Just don't flush it down the drain. Instead, you're going to give them to me to cash into my bank account later. That way you'll lose all your money, and if they ever check my account, I'll just say I won it all at the casino. They won't be able to prove otherwise. Do you think that would really work? What about my truck? You could just sign it over to me. We just need to write it all down and both sign it. Maybe we should consult a lawyer when we get there who can tell us how to do it so it's all right and legal. Are you guys really thinking about going to Las Vegas? Asked me Rose. Wait, who is that with you? Is that Rose? Asks Jonas. Yeah, that's Rose. She stayed the night, that's why I slept in this morning. I reply, grinning widely, but Jonas doesn't see it. Well, bloody well done. Shit. Thanks, Jonas. Listen, you need to go and book your plane ticket while Janie's out, and don't forget to grab the registration papers for your truck. Fly out this afternoon and be back on Monday. I'll call our boss to take Monday off. He'll understand. And you? Don't worry, I'll be heading out soon too and I'll book the tickets. Just don't forget to tell Janie that it's my weekend away after breaking up with Talia, and that we planned it weeks ago. Play dumb when she says you've never mentioned it before. Just don't say there's anything wrong between you two. Nothing. Got it? Yeah, I get it. Thanks for all of this, Jason. If we pull this shit, I won't forget it. A few hours later, I walked into the airport with my small carry-on and Rose walking beside me. She had decided to join us in Las Vegas because, being a bar manager, she didn't need to ask permission to take the day off. She never works on Sundays at all, so she was happy to join me when I asked her. We had booked 2 rooms at one of the casinos, and now I was looking forward to the weekend with Rose much more than making sure Janie didn't get any of Jonas's money after their divorce. The 3 of us had a nice dinner at the restaurant and then had a few drinks to start the evening. Jonas even laughed at the fact that Janie seemed almost happy that he was going away for the weekend, saying that he was going to spend time with Becky and Talia. He said that she was undoubtedly thinking about cheating on him without resorting to sneaking around. If Janie had known what we were planning, perhaps she wouldn't have been so eager to escort her husband out the door. On Saturday night, Jonas was able to withdraw about half of his entire savings buying chips to play at the casino. He would withdraw the rest the following evening. While we each gambled away a few $100s, having a few more drinks, I transferred some of my large winnings into my account a few hours later. Rose and I then returned to our room where we spent the next 2 hours. I never felt so content as I did falling asleep with Rose in my arms. In the morning, we joined Jonas again for coffee and then to plan how to spend Sunday. In the evening, he withdrew the rest of his savings again, leaving only enough so that Janie wouldn't realize what was going on. Monday morning, we found a small law office near the Strip, where he notarized the transfer of Jonas's truck into my name. And then we stopped by the DMV to finalize everything before we all caught our flights back to Anaheim. Jonas now officially owns everything, which means Janie will own everything too. Back in Anaheim on Monday lunchtime, Jonas packed up his stuff and laptop while Janie was at work. He's going to crash at my flat for a few days until he finds a new place to live. He still hasn't told Janie he's leaving her. He's asked her to meet him at a bar near where she works for a drink when she's done for the day. He did this on purpose to limit the consequences of being in public. According to Jonas, Janie didn't take it too well, but later, while sipping a beer in my flat, he informed me that he had come up with the most interesting thing while he was waiting for her to arrive. Jonas told Janie that they needed to talk, that he knew that she had been cheating on him because Shane had accidentally confessed everything. Jonas told Janie that there had been a heated argument between him and Shane today, and Shane had blabbed about her cheating to get back at him. Jonas then got Shane to reveal that all three women were best friends before we even met them, and that Janie and Talia had been cheating on us all along. Shane even told him that they went to local clubs to pick up guys and take them back to Shane and Becky for sex, and that they did it all the time. Of course, Shane never told Jonas any of this, but it was Jonas's way of getting back at him for participating in the deception. At first, Janie vehemently denied everything, but quickly moved on to insults and deflecting blame once she realized the deed was done. Jonas then handed his wife the divorce papers he had just drawn up with his lawyer late last night. As we drink our beers together, laughing at Jonas telling me all of this, we imagine Becky getting mad at Shane for telling me everything. He'll deny everything, of course, and it will be true, but we doubt she'll believe him. Becky already doesn't respect him, so why should she respect his words now? The most interesting thing happened when Jonas and Janie appeared in family court a few weeks later. Their total assets, including household goods, were about $12,000, and Jonas said she could keep it all except for his clothes, tools, and personal laptop. She demanded that they had over $80,000 in the bank and a new work truck worth about $40,000, which he tried to hide. When he told the court that he had lost this money and the truck gambling in Las Vegas prior to their divorce proceedings, and that this was a large part of the reason for their divorce, the court agreed that these assets were gone and could not be included in the settlement agreement. A month later, when the divorce was finalized, I stayed true to my word and transferred Jonas's money back into his account and handed him his truck. Rose has since moved in with me as well. She even set Jonas up with a friend of hers named Haley, a good friend who definitely wasn't a slut for most of her life like Janie and Talia. Next chapter. It's Wednesday evening. Rose and I are walking out of the restaurant near our flat after having a nice dinner together. As we walk slowly down the pavement and chat, Rose asks me something a little different from our usual conversation. Tell me, Jason, are you happy? Am I happy? Yes, are we? It all happened so fast. We met, then we moved in together. You know, along with everything else that happened too. I'm just wondering if you're really happy with everything. Yeah, I am actually. Very happy with it. Well, let's just say I wasn't at my best after I found out about Talia, about what she did to me. My whole life was planned out. I was going to be with her, start a family, but then it was all ripped away. The only ray of sunshine after all that was a few months later when I first met you. Really? I remember that you didn't exactly fawn over me. We're a bit of a bitch, to be honest. Yeah, you made me work hard, but I knew you were a good person under that armor. Are you sure it wasn't just because you found me sexy? Well, you're sexy too, but it wasn't just that. You went to great lengths to save me from the biggest mistake of my life and then some with Jonas. You didn't have to do that. None of it. You forget my personal need for retribution. I wasn't driven solely by a desire to save you. Not in the beginning, anyway. Yes, I know. but I bet you're glad it turned out the way it did. Very. And for Jonas, too. I know Haley already thinks everything about him. Before I could answer her, we looked up to see a very dressed-up Talia walking towards us under the arm of her boss, Steve. I don't know who was more surprised, us or them. I'll admit, I used to have fantasies about confronting Talia and Steve, kicking his arse and calling her a cheap whore. But since meeting Rose, I've thought a lot less of Talia and her boss, to the point where I don't give a damn about them now. But if he dares say anything to Rose, it will be bad for his health. But the look of surprise on Talia's face, at least, quickly disappeared when she realized who I was hugging. It was quickly replaced by anger, as it probably came to Talia's attention who it was that had ruined her perfect little playground that Becky, Janie, and herself had worked so hard on. "Rose, you bloody little bitch! I should have known it was you!" Talia pounced on Rose as we stopped in front of each other. "Screw you, Talia. How does it feel to be played for once? You slept with my man, and I took yours away from you. And I know I got the best part of that deal, that's for sure." Rose looked defiantly at Talia. "I don't know. Steve and I are very happy. We even got engaged," Talia replied arrogantly, extending her left hand to show off her large diamond engagement ring. "You do know that she had fun with other men while she was with you, right?" Rose informed Steve. "Shut up, you lying bitch," replies Talia, squeezing her boyfriend's hand even tighter. However, Rose didn't calm down and continued her conversation with Steve. "What, you think because she slept with Jason with you that she's not sleeping with you now? I've seen her kissing guys and leaving my club late at night with them already after Jason and her broke up, even last week. You've got a real little gold-digging whore on your hands. She'll try to take everything you've got while she's having fun with all the other guys around. I hope the sex is worth it." "Back off," almost shouts Talia, trying to get her new fiancé to move away from us. "It's true, Steve. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm the last guy who wants to help an arsehole like you. But she's a real slut. Always has been and always will be." I reply with a smirk on my face, looking at Talia before Rose decides to give her one last parting shot. "I'm grateful that you're such a self-centered slut, Talia. If it wasn't for you, I never would have had a chance to meet Jason or be with him. So I guess I have you to thank." Rose offered Talia a slight smile, and we walked past them to continue on our way home, hearing them start arguing with each other behind us. "Is that what you all meant? About you being grateful to her for meeting me?" I ask Rose with a chuckle as we approach our apartment complex. "Yeah, actually I am. I couldn't be happier right now, especially because I was able to tell her that right to her face," Rose replies, laughing. "Me neither. It's a bit petty, but damn, it felt good too." "I know. It's even scary to imagine how much I enjoyed it," replies Rose as we enter our flat. "Well, it's all behind us now. I just want to focus on being with the best woman I've ever been lucky enough to be with." "Really? Maybe I need to show you how lucky I am too. Come with me." Rose dragged me into our bedroom. Next chapter. It had been a year since that night outside the restaurant, and Rose and I had just gotten engaged. I didn't know this before, but it turns out her parents are rich. Who would have thought? They own the bar that Rose runs, as well as a number of other businesses, and they told us they'd buy us a flat as a wedding present. Yeah, a bloody flat. Jonas and Haley are still together, and he recently told me he was going to ask Haley to marry him too, which I wasn't sure he'd want to do so soon after the last time. But he feels the same way I do, that we've both been given another chance at happiness. It turns out that Becky had filed for divorce from Shane before I met Talia a year ago. She blamed him for ruining everything, as only a self-centered slut can. Jonas and I haven't socialized with Shane since their divorce either, and have no plans to be friends with him again. We also have no idea if Talia has stayed with her boss Steve and what Janie or Becky are doing now. Probably just having fun with new guys, scouting out new suckers they can sink their teeth into for money. I'm just glad that I or Jonas are no longer among them. As for my relationship with Rose, I couldn't be happier. For all the tough exterior she puts out, she's actually the gentlest, caring, loving, and respectful woman I've been lucky enough to fall in love with. And she's sexy as hell. So sometimes the brightest days come after the darkest nights. The end. Estelle Matheson, Stell to her close friends, had just shot and killed her husband Derek and lover Austin Dickerson. For a few agonizing moments, she pondered her choice. She could sit patiently after the 911 call and endure a trial that would surely result in a lengthy prison sentence. Or she could put a 9mm pistol in her mouth and join the two bodies on the floor. On the other hand, she could have taken the suitcases, the $100,000 in the safe, and her passport, loaded them into Derek's BMW and headed off to an unknown destination. She may or may not leave. If someone heard gunshots, she may only have a few minutes. If no one heard, however, she might have a couple days. Tipping back her glass, she finished the last drops of the strong whiskey and set the empty glass on the table. She had a decision to make. Of course, there was another option. Avoiding as best she could the thick pool of blood on the floor, she rummaged through Austin's pants pockets and found his car keys. She pulled out his wallet, taking his driver's license and the $250 in cash he kept with him. As she stood up, she saw a 9mm handgun on the table. She remembered the feeling of power it had given her. In her hand, it felt like the most real thing in the world. The expressions on Derek and Austin's faces gave her a sense of superiority, of triumph. Besides, if she left it behind, her fingerprints would make any legal future open and shut. If she got caught, she could make up any story she wanted, right? Who would be able to call her a liar? The gun was practically whispering that to her. Stell grabbed the gun and shoved it deeper into her oversized bag. Stell glanced at the corpses and wondered for a moment why this sight didn't move her. Then she shook her head and walked quickly forward. I may be a cold-blooded killer and a serial cheater, but I'm not stupid, she thought, taking the folder from the manila. I don't want to leave behind more evidence than I need. She ran over to the safe, opened it. Derek foolishly hadn't changed the combination yet. And put the money in one of the suitcases. Leaving the safe open, Stell wiped it clean of fingerprints. It could have looked like a botched robbery. Any false maneuver could buy her time or confuse future legal problems. She praised herself for being smart. Ignoring the blood, she emptied Derek's wallet again. It contained $323, which Stell added to her stash, realizing she probably wouldn't have an income for a while. When she let go of the body, it flopped back onto the floor and hissed. Stell froze for a moment, but the body didn't move, and no blood oozed from the wound. She breathed a sigh of relief. She must have just knocked some of the trapped air out of his dead lungs. She fussed and loaded everything into Austin's black Audi and climbed in. He'd never let her drive. Now he was dead, and she was taking possession of his precious possessions. Stell chuckled nastily as she calmly drove Austin's car out of the driveway and away. She didn't even lock the front door of her house, deciding she was never coming back. Unfortunately for her, she never saw the curtains move in the front window of the house across the street. Next chapter. As Stell pulled out of the driveway, Wendy McGregor backed away from her living room window. She watched as the Audi pulled into the driveway and as the strange man entered the house. Then she watched as Stell loaded the car and drove away. Something doesn't add up here, she thought. Wendy went upstairs where her husband, Mike, was taking a shower. Working at the construction site, he often showered after coming home to be fresh and clean for her. She opened the shower door and admired her strong, muscular husband before she spoke. "Snip, I'm going across the street for a few minutes," she told him. I know. Mike caught her tone immediately and wiped the soap off his face. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "I don't know," Wendy replied. "There's something weird going on over at the Mathesons' place." "Do you want me to come with you?" asked Mike. He knew the Mathesons, and while he liked Derek, he didn't like Stell very much. She was too much of a flirt and had hit on him more than once. He tried to avoid her as much as possible. "I don't think I'll need to, but I'll still take my phone just in case." She cared a lot about appearances. It would be embarrassing if they both got there and there was nothing there. "Okay," Mike said, starting to rinse and dry himself off. He trusted Wendy and knew she'd call if she needed help, but running across the street soaped and naked wasn't likely to help. "Love you," Wendy said before kissing Mike. "Love you too," he replied. Wendy picked up her cell phone and, as casually as possible, walked to the Mathesons' house across the street. She knocked gently on the door but got no answer. A few minutes later, she tried again, only knocking louder. When there was still no answer or sound from the house, she tried the doorknob and was surprised when it opened. She poked her head inside and called out. "Hello," she called out. "Is anyone home?" Strange, she thought, when no one answered. She saw that Derek and the strange man had come in a little later. They must be in the basement or backyard, she thought, and stepped into the house. Halfway into the living room, she saw two bodies and thick puddles of dark liquid on the floor. "Oh my God!" she gasped as she saw the two bodies on the kitchen floor. To keep from throwing up, she moved away from the site and immediately dialed 911 and reported what she saw. 911, what's your emergency? This is Wendy McGregor. I am located at 275 North Cedar Drive. I'm here to visit my neighbors, Derek and Stell Matheson. The door was unlocked, and there were two bloody bodies lying on the kitchen floor. This is very important. Please don't touch anything, ma'am. Stay outside and wait for the officers to arrive. I've dispatched ambulances and police cars to your location. They should be there within half an hour, the operator said, taking in Wendy's information. Okay, Wendy stammered, still in shock after seeing the two men on the floor. After talking to the 911 operator, she called Mike to tell him what had happened. You have to do as they say. Get out of there right away. There's probably someone else in the house. I'll be right there, he told her. And she hurried out the front door, replacing fear with a sigh of relief. Mike was still hugging his distraught wife when the first ambulance arrived 25 minutes later, followed by a police cruiser and an unmarked sedan. 4 paramedics came to the door, accompanied by 2 police officers and 2 men in suits. The officers entered the house with the paramedics as one of them introduced himself to Mike and Wendy as Detective Jacob Branson. This is my partner, Detective Frank Smith, Jacob said. I'll go inside and take a quick look around the house, Frank said. Thank you. I'll take a statement, Jacob agreed and turned to Wendy and Mike. Can you tell me what happened? Asked Jacob to the shaking woman. He took notes as Wendy recalled everything she had seen in great detail, from the arrival of the car and the man to the departure of the car and Stell. She was remarkably brief. A few minutes later, one of the officers returned to the street and approached Jacob, whispering something in his ear. Jacob's eyes widened when the officer spoke. I'll be right back, he said to Mike and Wendy, then put on the boots the officer handed him, walked into the house and quickly surveyed the scene before walking over to Derek's body. The man is still alive, Detective, one of the paramedics said, but it won't be for long if we don't get him to the hospital as soon as possible. Okay, Jacob said as the officers continued their work. Give me his information and get him out of here. What about the other victim? He's gone, the paramedic said with a shake of his head. He handed Jacob a wallet and Jacob put on gloves before taking it. Opening the wallet, Jacob saw the man's driver's license and wrote down the information. He turned to one of the officers, who handed him an evidence bag. Putting the wallet in the bag and making the appropriate notes, he approached the second victim, avoiding the blood on the floor. What do you have? He asked the paramedics. 1 shot to the chest, right through the heart. He was dead when he hit the floor, the paramedic said. There's nothing we can do to help him. I've already called the medical examiner's office and forensics. They're on their way. They'll be here soon, Frank said. It looks like they were sent out at the same time, but they're a little behind. Good, Jacob said. What else? Based on the cards in his wallet, the victim is Austin Dickerson. His driver's license and keys are missing. The shooter probably took his car, Jacob replied. Anything else? An empty bottle of single malt scotch, Frank said. Looks pretty expensive. 2 cars in the garage. Open fireproof safe in the home office. Other than bodies and blood, no signs of a struggle. Did you find any weapons? Asked Jacob. No, Frank replied. Shit. The neighbor across the street said she saw a woman driving away in an Audi, said Jacob. Most likely it was Mrs. Matheson. You'd better get Dickerson's license plate numbers and put out a bolo on her. Consider her armed and dangerous. Got it, Frank said, and left the room to contact dispatch. By then, the forensics and crime scene investigators had arrived and had begun to examine the crime scene. Frank and Jacob went out on the porch as the medical examiner prepared to take Austin's body to the morgue. Mike and Wendy were still there, waiting for the detectives. What do you know about the Mathesons? Asked Jacob. Not much, replied Mike. Derek is an attorney, can't remember which firm, and his wife has a real estate office. I think it's on the east side, but I'm not sure. What about Austin Dickerson? Do you know anything about him? Asked Jacob. Mike and Wendy looked at each other and shook their heads. No, we've never heard of him, replied Wendy. If this is the man who came by earlier, This is the first time I've seen him today. Good, thank you both. You've been a great help to me. I realize it was pretty traumatic, Jacob said. If you need to talk to anyone, call the number on this card, he added, handing them the card. Would you gentlemen like a cup of coffee or something? Asked Wendy. She seemed anxious to be away from the scene, but she didn't want to miss anything. No thank you, ma'am, Jacob replied politely. But thank you for the kind offer. Of course, Wendy replied, and she and Mike hurried back across the street. A few neighbors had come out to see what all the fuss was about, and Jacob was sure the gossip would distract them from the crime scene for a while. I memorized Dickerson's numbers and put out a bolo on Mrs. Matheson, Frank said when the McGregors were out of earshot. Good job, thanks. You think it was a botched robbery? Asked Frank. Jacob shook his head before answering. No, I don't. Personally, I think it was a love triangle gone wrong. At least that's what my intuition tells me. We need to find out as much as we can about these people. I want to know everything, where they work, what they do in their spare time, how much toilet paper they use, everything. Frank chuckled briefly before answering. I'll get on it, he said, and headed for the unmarked sedan where he would use the cell phone computer to conduct a search. Jacob pulled out his cell phone and called his wife, Angelica, to let her know he would be late again. I'm sorry, honey. We're working on a home shooting. I don't know how long we'll be delayed, he said when she answered the phone. It's okay, honey. I understand everything. Just catch these bad guys and come home in one piece, you hear me? I will, he said with a smile. I love you, Angelica said. And I love you too, Frank replied before ending the call. Returning the phone, he vowed that he would treat his wonderful wife to a well-deserved cruise in 2 years when he retired. And while Frank searched the internet and police records for clues, Jacob sighed and went back inside to supervise the crime scene. Next chapter. Meanwhile, Stell pulled onto the highway leading west, careful not to draw attention to herself by speeding or driving recklessly. She glanced nervously in the rearview mirror for any police officers. Stell wanted to get out of town as quickly as possible, but at the same time not draw attention to herself. Stell breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the sign indicating that she had left the city limits and continued driving. Half an hour later, the shock of the day's events had passed and she began to shake. Get a grip, Stell scolded herself aloud, trying to keep her emotions under control. After all, they both deserve it. She saw a sign pointing to a motel and diner and pulled over for the night. Pulling into the parking lot, Stell found a spot that wasn't visible from the freeway and parked the car. She entered the office and paid cash for the room. The elderly man running the motel didn't bother to check her ID or car registration. Walking out of the office, Stell breathed a sigh of relief. She carried her bags to her room and collapsed on her bed. After calming her emotions, she went to the diner and ate what they said was meatloaf, drenched in a brown sauce they called gravy. It was hearty, but it tasted like crap. Stell laughed at the old movie reference, washed down the meal with a glass of iced tea that didn't make her nauseous, paid the bill in cash, and went back to her room. Turning on the TV for background noise, Stell undressed and took a hot shower, hoping to calm down and get rid of the day's grime. She was drying herself off with a thin motel towel when she heard something on the TV that made her blood run cold in her veins. We interrupt the program to bring you the latest news, the reporter's voice said importantly. Police have put out a bolo for Estelle Matheson, who is a suspect in a double homicide that occurred today in Center City. According to authorities, Matheson allegedly shot one man and critically wounded her husband, who is currently undergoing surgery at Mercy General Hospital. Police are asking for the public's help in locating Mrs. Matheson. She was last seen driving a dark Audi sedan with license plates QWE 1731. Authorities believe she is heavily armed and is considered extremely dangerous. She is described as medium height, with blonde hair and green eyes, he said, as Stell's picture appeared on the screen. Police say, if you spot this individual, do not approach but call the number on the screen. That's all for today. We'll bring you news as it comes in, the reporter said, as he finished the announcement and went directly to the results of the city's cutest cat contest. By this time, Stell had entered the room, wrapping a towel around her trembling body. When the announcement was over, she collapsed on her bed and began to mull over her options. She was shocked to learn that her husband was still alive. How was that possible? Stell was sure he was dead. They must be trying to trick her or something. She was so sure of it. And what made them think she was extremely dangerous? You shoot two assholes and you get branded for life, Stell muttered irritably. She sank down on the bed, mulling over her options. After a while, she heard her cell phone ring. Glancing at the screen, she saw that it was Crystal, her secretary. Is it true? Asked Crystal worriedly as Stell answered the call. Did you really shoot your husband and another man? Was it your lover, Austin Dickerson? I can't talk about that right now, Crystal, Stell replied irritably. Look, I'm going to be out of town for a while. Yeah, for about 30 years, Crystal hissed. How could you do this to us? You know I need this job. I have kids and bills to pay. I know, Crystal, Stell said, realizing with dismay that this was affecting those she cared about. Damn those two men. It's going to be okay. Tell Janice she's in charge while I'm gone, okay? As office manager, Janice Rollins had access to all the accounts and handled payroll. If anyone asks, I'm on vacation. I'll talk to you later. Where are you? Asked Crystal urgently. Can't say, Stell replied defensively. You're in deep shit. You know that, don't you? They've got your picture all over the TV and probably on the internet. Crystal brushed it off. Yeah, probably, Stell admitted. Look, I've got to go. Take care of yourself and I'll see you as soon as I can. Bye, she said, and ended the conversation before Crystal could say anything else. Stell was exhausted but realized she couldn't stay in this motel and got ready to leave. She dressed in jeans and a casual blouse, gathered her things and left the room. As she dropped her keys in the night key box, she saw the motel manager talking on the phone. He stopped the conversation, looked up, and saw her put the keys down. Their eyes met for a moment and Stell saw his stony, judgmental expression. She also saw the small television screen behind him, which was still showing the evening news. In that short time, she realized that he would report her to the police. Stell broke eye contact and hurried to the Audi. Tossing her luggage into the back seat, she got behind the wheel, placing her purse on the passenger seat so she could easily reach the 9mm pistol. She drove out of the parking lot, splattering the flower bed with dirt and plants, and pulled onto the highway, heading west. Next chapter. How's he doing, Doc? Is he going to make it? Asked Jacob of the weary doctor who had just entered the operating room. The doctor sighed heavily. The bags under his bloodshot eyes were the result of a very hard shift. He handed Jacob a plastic bag containing a deformed piece of lead. He's alive for the moment, Detective, the doctor said. This bullet punctured Mr. Matheson's right lung. He wouldn't have survived if the bullet had hit half an inch to the left. We've repaired the damage, but time will tell. He's recovering now. The next 24 to 48 hours will be crucial. Thanks, Doc, Jacob said. The doctor left and Jacob stared at the bloody piece of lead in the bag. He knew from experience that it was a 9mm caliber bullet, but it would still have to be examined by forensics. Mr. Matheson was damn lucky to be alive. A few minutes later, Frank showed up. Jacob realized he had something to report. What is it? He asked. We got a call from a motel on Highway 30. Matheson got a room and left shortly afterward. She was seen heading west. We also got a message from Crystal Jackson. She works for Matheson as a receptionist. He nodded. Go ahead. Jackson confirmed that Matheson and Dickerson were lovers. She spoke to Matheson this evening. Did she say where Matheson was going? Asked Jacob. No, but she gave us Matheson's cell phone number, said Frank. Good. If nothing else, we can track her location. Anything else? We've already contacted the sheriff's department and the state police, Frank said, pulling a folded map from an inside jacket pocket. They've set up roadblocks here, and here, he added, pointing to 3 dots on the map. The sheriff's deputies have also set up checkpoints and roadblocks at all exits on the west side of the freeway. Good, Jacob said approvingly. We'll get her, boss. If all goes well, we'll take her into custody tonight, Frank said. From your mouth to God's ears, Jacob replied. Next chapter. Stell hadn't been driving long when she noticed flashing police lights in the distance far ahead. The traffic on the freeway began to slow down, becoming more and more congested. Maybe there's been an accident, she thought, turning on the radio. Finding a local news station, Stell heard another report that sent shivers running down her spine. State police have set up roadblocks and checkpoints on the west side of Highway 30 to take the suspected shooter into custody, the reporter reported. As a result, traffic on the I-30 freeway will be congested for several miles. Shit, Stell exclaimed, hitting the steering wheel. Damn, damn, damn! Frustrated and angry, she stared ahead through the blinding river of taillights. Less than half a mile away, she saw the exit to State Highway 17. She knew the neighborhood quite well, as she had sold several houses here. State Highway 17 went north and south. She could drive north for a couple of miles, then turn west off Euclid Road and pass the checkpoints on the freeway. That'll show them, she thought haughtily. Ignoring the roaring klaxons, Stell pulled out of the fast lane and shifted into the right lane just in time to make the exit ramp. By this time, traffic was almost at a standstill because of the checkpoint. Several people were obviously thinking the same thing, as traffic was congested on the winding two-lane exit. After turning around, she realized why. Two police cars stood at the very bottom of the exit, forcing everyone to line up. "Shit!" screamed Stell. She pulled a large handgun out of her purse and put it on the seat, since she was afraid to hold it while driving, and rolled down the window to get a better view of the street. Looking around, she decided she could make it to the highway if she drove through the grassy area between the exit ramp and the road. "Screw it," she said, turned off the exit, and headed down the grassy slope. Crossing the paved path, she nearly hit a car, but kept going, answering the horn of another car with an outstretched middle finger. Without slowing down, she sped through the stream of cars and turned north on Highway 17. "Ha!" she shouted in triumph. But her victory was short-lived as sheriff's deputies began chasing her down the four-lane highway, flashing their headlights and howling their sirens. With adrenaline pumping, Stell pressed the gas pedal and sped through the traffic, skipping two traffic lights. The intersection with Euclid Road loomed ahead, and she braced herself for the turn. The Audi's tires squealed as she turned left. A man crossing the street as she turned angrily slammed her on the hood and yelled, "Watch where you're going, you crazy bitch!" "Screw you, asshole!" Stell shouted, firing her gun wildly out the open window, not caring who she might hit. In the rearview mirror, she saw the man fall and laughed. "Another asshole killed. Millions left," she grinned as she pressed down on the gas pedal. The police cars continued to chase her, but one of them stopped to help the man Stell had shot. She heard more sirens and saw the glow of flashing headlights all around her, but she continued on down the road, swerving in the flow of traffic. Then she saw two police cars blocking the street ahead. Stell was frantic, determined to ram the cars and take as many people with her as she could. But after looking around, she decided she could get around them if she got on the wide sidewalk next to the street. Seeing an open space, she quickly turned off the road and sped out onto the sidewalk, pressing down even harder on the gas pedal. Suddenly, a large pickup truck appeared in front of her, pulling out of the parking garage. Unable to avoid the truck, Stell hit the brake pedal as hard as she could, but it was too late. She didn't even have time to jerk the steering wheel left or right. There was nowhere to go. The Audi slammed into the pickup truck and both vehicles ended up on the lawn. The airbags deployed, hitting Stell in the face but not knocking her unconscious. She managed to open the door and grab her gun, which fell to the floor of the car. Her vision was blurred by the many flashing lights surrounding her, and she raised her hand, hoping to block out some of the light. "Gun!" someone shouted. "Drop your weapons!" Stunned, Stell didn't notice that she was covering her eyes with the hand in which she held the gun. She heard several loud explosions and felt a deep, searing pain all over her body before falling to the ground. "Goodbye, cruel world. May you all die," Stell groaned before losing consciousness. Next chapter. Upon waking up, Stell found herself in a hospital bed with one wrist handcuffed to the sidebar. Everything hurt, and she groaned as she settled herself on the bed. A middle-aged man in a dark suit stood over her. "Who are you? Dead?" asked Jacob coldly, raising an eyebrow. "No, not yet." "Not yet?" moaned Stell. "I'll let your lawyer explain that part. As for your injuries, the officers on the scene hit you with rock salt, beans, and rat shot. Technically not fatal, but it still hurt like hell. Consider yourself lucky. They sedated you to bandage you up. I'm just here to let you know that you're under arrest for murder, 2 attempted murders, carjacking, and a host of other charges, including about 100 traffic violations." "2 attempted murders?" asked Stell after Jacob read her Miranda rights, not understanding. "Your husband, who is in recovery. Yes, he's still alive, but if he doesn't make it, there will obviously be another murder charge. And Ryan Simpson, he's the man you shot at on Route 17 and Euclid Road. You didn't kill him, fortunately, but you wounded him badly. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know. There are 2 police officers outside the door who will escort you to the jail and check you in when you're released from the hospital. For now, I need to finish some paperwork and head home to my lovely wife. Have a good day, Jacob added sarcastically, and left. Stell closed her eyes after Jacob left and thought about all the decisions she'd made lately. All she wanted was a little more fun. All in all, Stell thought, she had wasted more than 5 years on the cuckolded Derek. She'd thought she'd always been careful, but apparently that hadn't been the case. And now she was facing serious jail time. Stell thought all of this could have been avoided if Derek had just talked to her. But instead, he'd fussed over those damn divorce papers. Yes, she thought, it was all Derek's fault. If he hadn't filed those papers, Austin would still be alive and she wouldn't be facing jail time. Damn him. A few hours later, the door opened and a doctor, accompanied by 2 policewomen, entered the room. The doctor reviewed her chart, made a few notes, and replaced the chart. "We are working on your release now, Mrs. Matheson," the doctor said. "A nurse will be here shortly with your discharge papers, and you can leave with these 2 officers. Have a good day." Both officers smirked as the doctor left the room. Soon turned into an hour and a half. When a nurse and 2 police officers entered the room, Stell urgently needed to relieve herself. One of the officers unlocked the handcuffs and watched Stell go to the bathroom. "Why don't you take a picture?" Stell asked Riley. Asked Stell Riley. Asked Stell Riley. "It'll take longer that way." The officer didn't answer anything, but the look on her face told Stell everything she needed to know, so she bit her tongue and said nothing more. When she was done, the officer escorted her back to her room. After Stell got dressed, the officer snapped the handcuffs on her arms behind her back. "Is this necessary?" the nurse asked. "We have to wheel her in a wheelchair. She's going to be very uncomfortable." "Okay," one of the officers smirked. They rolled Stell up to a police car waiting in the patient intake area, unceremoniously shoved her into the back seat, and drove her to the jail. Next chapter. 3 days later, Stell, along with several other inmates, appeared before a judge for a bail hearing. The district attorney asked to keep her in custody pending trial, arguing that she was dangerous and likely to escape. After reviewing the case file, the judge agreed, and Stell returned to her cell. That same day, Jacob was informed that Derek had recovered enough to talk to him for a few minutes, and he went to the hospital. "How are you feeling, Mr. Matheson?" asked Jacob as he entered the room. "Like I've been shot," Derek replied in a throaty whisper. "Just don't make me laugh." "I won't. I'm Detective Jacob Branson. I've been assigned your case. I need to clarify a few things. You do know your wife is in custody, don't you?" "I saw it on the news," Derek sighed. "We found the divorce papers she had on her as well as $100,000 in cash. Can you tell me where that money came from?" "I was holding it for a client." "You kept $100,000 for a client in your home safe? That's an awful lot of money. Why did you keep all that cash?" inquired Jacob. "No offense, Detective. I realize you're just trying to do your job, but this falls under attorney-client privilege." "And it's irrelevant," Derek replied, averting his gaze. Jacob muttered, noticing Derek's reluctance to discuss the matter. He knew that technically Derek was right, but he had an immediate suspicion. "Why don't you tell me what happened?" "I had Stell file divorce papers for adultery. It wasn't the first time she'd spread her legs for someone else, but I swore it would be the last time she'd do it while married to me. I had all the rights to her, the pictures, everything. Her lover worked for the man I play golf with on Saturdays, Jeff Parsons. He's the one who put me on the trail." "Austin Dickerson?" asked Jacob. "Yeah, anyway, Austin got fired. It was either that or legal repercussions. I've taken steps to protect myself and punish Stell. It's all legal and not against the law. I told Stell she had to leave and then left the house so she could pack her things. After a while, she called me, said she wanted to talk. I thought she wanted to try to make amends, so I agreed and went home. The next moment, Dickerson showed up. It turned out that Stell had invited him over to her place. We exchanged brief phrases, and then Stell pulled out my gun and shot Dickerson right in the chest. He didn't stand a chance. I hated what he did, but he didn't deserve it. Anyway, I got up and tried to leave, but Stell shot me. I woke up here, that's all I know." "Are you ready to testify in open court?" asked Jacob. Hell yeah, Derek answered quickly. And I should have a videotape of the incident to corroborate my testimony. I installed a surveillance system months ago. Yes, we found that system, Jacob admitted, and the video we found on it fully corroborates your testimony. Good? Is Jack Morrison handling the case? Asked Derek, turning to the district attorney. He'd known Jack since college, and they were good friends. Yes, Jacob admitted, and I understand he's considering the death penalty. Are you okay with that? Are you kidding me? That bitch almost killed me. She managed to kill her lover. I hope he manages to nail her for real. And I'll do everything in my power to help put the needle in her, Derek growled painfully, managing to lift his head and glare angrily at the detective. Jacob sighed, returning the notepad to his inside pocket. I'll let him know, he replied, nodding. In the meantime, you get some rest. Thank you, detective, Derek said weakly, dropping his head back down onto the pillow. Of course, Jacob said quietly, walking out of the room. Once in the hallway, he breathed a sigh of relief. The hatred for Derek was coming out of him in waves. Next chapter. Stell was escorted into a small interrogation room where a young man sat at a desk with an open briefcase and a folder in front of him. He looked up but said nothing as the guard fastened Stell's handcuffs to the metal bar in the center of the desk. I take it you're my court-appointed attorney? Asked Stell as the guard left the room. Yes, Donovan West, Public Defender's Office, at your service. And you are Estelle Matheson? In the flesh, Stell replied wryly. Donovan noticed her tone and raised one eyebrow. He'd had to deal with intractable clients before, but this woman and her demeanor trumped them all. Either she didn't realize the seriousness of the charges against her, or she simply didn't care. He had dealt with both types before and knew he had to take control of the situation immediately. Do you understand the nature of the charges against you? He asked blandly. Stell shrugged before answering. Yes. I killed one man, shot two others, and a lot of other bad things. What are they going to do to me? Eh? Well, if the DA wants to, they'll kill you, Donovan said. Kill you, he added, leaning forward for emphasis. And that district attorney's a hell of a man. If you want to have even half a chance of staying alive, you need to drop the bad girl image and listen carefully. Unless, of course, you have a death wish. Stell recoiled from Donovan's words as the implications of his words struck her. It was the first time she realized that her life was at stake. Taking a few deep breaths, Stell pulled herself together and looked at Donovan. You're right. What should I do? She asked, clearly shaken. First of all, you need to listen carefully to what I tell you, and follow my instructions exactly. Do you understand? My life is in your hands, literally, so I guess I don't have much choice, do I? Stell waved it away irritably. You always have a choice, Mrs. Matheson. Let's get to the point, Donovan said before delving into it. They spent the next 2 hours discussing the events that led to Stell's act and their strategy. Short memories of how upset and angry she had been surfaced in Stell's mind. Donovan took notes. Said, what about the divorce? Asked Stell when they were done. What am I supposed to do about that? I'm not a family law attorney, and our office doesn't handle divorces. However, given your situation, I think it would be best for you to sign the papers and get it over with as soon as possible. You may be right, but I don't have the papers with me, Stell complained. I think the detective who is on the case has them. I'll talk to him. I know a family law attorney who owes me a couple of favors. I'll get in touch with her. I'll be in touch with her soon. Try to stay out of trouble for now, okay? Okay, Stell admitted, somewhat contrite. Thanks. Next chapter. Stell spent the next 3 months chilling in jail while the wheels of justice moved as slowly as possible. Thankfully, she was spared what the dirtiest prison stories darkly hinted at. Her cellmate kept her distance, as did the rest of the inmates and even the guards. There was talk that she was crazy, and she was shunned. True to his word, Donovan talked to Janice Hawkins, a friend who practiced family law. Janice spent 15 minutes with Stell, obtaining a copy of the documents Derek had filed with the court. After reviewing the evidence and the criminal case against Stell, she advised the soon-to-be former Mrs. Matheson to sign the papers and file for divorce as soon as possible. Your husband has effectively set the record straight. Given the evidence and facts he has presented in your criminal case, no judge in this state will side with you. you're better off accepting his terms. Sign the papers and in 90 days it will be finalized. Oh, by the way, once everything is finalized, you need to give back your maiden name, Janice said. Can I keep my birthday? Asked Stell sarcastically. I think that can be arranged, replied Janice just as sarcastically. She hated pro bono work, even as short as this case turned out to be. Stell signed the papers where Janice indicated and handed them back. Janice looked them over and put them in her briefcase. Good luck with your case, Janice said simply, and left the room. Yeah, Stell sighed, looking after the departing attorney. She had just signed off on everything. Her business, her marriage, even her name. Now she needed to focus on staying alive. Damn Derek, damn him to hell. Another respite for Stell was 2 visits from mental health professionals who were tasked with determining her mental state. This was after Stell's second visit to court, where she pleaded not guilty, citing temporary insanity, which shocked almost everyone. Donovan arranged for one and warned her that the prosecution would also schedule her for an evaluation. Stell performed well in both interviews and hoped they would convince the jury. Meanwhile, Derek had been released from the hospital and was in rehab, working a reduced schedule at his law firm. Although he survived the shooting, he was still weak and ended up back in the hospital when an infection and a nasty case of pneumonia put him out of commission for nearly a month. Nevertheless, he was ready when Stell's case went to trial. He watched the trial from the gallery and was impressed with the way Jack handled the case. Jury selection lasted all day, while both legal teams maneuvered to seat 12 people they thought could try the case without bias. Well, that is, seat those who would be most sympathetic to their upcoming arguments, but forms and fiction must be preserved after all. The next day, Derek listened to the opening statements of both sides. Jack made it clear that he would present evidence that Stell had deliberately lured 2 men, her husband and her lover, into the house to murder them in cold blood. Then, he said, he would show that Stell robbed both men and stole $100,000 from the home safe before stealing her lover's car and going on a wild rampage. Although Derek knew about Stell's guilty plea, he was still shocked when he heard Donovan suggest during his opening statement that Stell had been out of her mind when she'd shot him in Austin. Glancing at Jack, Derek saw a slight smirk on his friend's face. After lunch, which came after a lengthy opening statement, Jack spent 2 hours with Jacob describing the crime scene, attaching a diagram of the house and photos taken at the scene. Derek shuddered when he saw the large color photographs of him and Austin lying on the floor in their own blood. He shuddered at the thought of almost dying on that floor. Derek could read a jury as well as Jack. As he looked around the 12 men and women in the jury box, he saw that while most of them were watching and taking notes rather stoically, others seemed disgusted by the sight of Stell, whose attention was focused everywhere except Jacob and the large monitor with charts and photos. Donovan decided not to cross-examine Jacob, so Jack called in the state police commander who was leading the joint hunt for Stell. Jack turned on video footage from the cruisers and helicopters involved in the chase and described what had been done during the incident. Derek was shocked when the commander explained what was shown on the video. His shock increased when the commander told the jury how Stell shot the man through an open car window. He saw half the jury gasp when they saw the shooting on the video. When Jack finished questioning the commander, Donovan again decided not to cross-examine him. The judge pulled the commander aside, and seeing that time was running out, moved to adjourn. Both sides agreed, and the judge dismissed the jury, telling them not to say anything to anyone about what they had seen or heard. Derek waited until Stell was let out of the courtroom with her attorney and approached Jack. "Good job. I think you scored some points," Derek said to his old friend. "Thanks, Derek," Jack replied. "By the way, how are you doing?" "No worse than you'd expect, I guess. Still can't play golf these days." "Let me know when you are. You owe me, you know," Jack joked. "I hope you have the strength to testify. I plan to call you to testify tomorrow, unless, of course, you don't mind testifying against your ex-wife." "No problem," Derek said. "I'm looking forward to it. This is the first time I've seen this video. It shook me to the core." Jack's demeanor changed slightly before he spoke again. "Just so you know, Derek, I'm going full force in this case." "The death penalty?" asked Derek indifferently. "Yes, I know how you feel about it, but I thought you should know." "Well, I've had a chance to rethink it lately," Derek said regretfully, rubbing the right side of his chest. Thanks for your candor. Snivet, did you see any footage from your surveillance system from that day? Asked Jack. No, I haven't, Derek replied. Good, and don't. It's very important to the case, and I need you to remember everything you can about that day, untainted. Believe me, it's seared into my memory. I'll never forget that day. You bet, Jack snorted. Besides, Teresa Callahan, my second in this case, will be taking your deposition. It's no secret that she and I are friends, and I don't want to give the defense any reason to ask for a recusal. Smart move, Derek replied. I'd better get going. I've got a lot of work to do before I can get home. Take care of yourself, Derek. I'll see you in the morning. Both men shook hands and left the courtroom. Next chapter. The next day, Jack persisted, first proving that Derek's 9mm semi-automatic pistol was the same gun that Stell had used to shoot all three men who had committed the crime alone. He then questioned a medical examiner who described Austin's injuries. According to his testimony, a 9mm hollow-point bullet fired at point-blank range pierced Austin's sternum and destroyed his heart, killing him instantly. The next witness called to testify was Ryan Simpson. Ryan slowly made his way to the entrance of the courtroom using a walker, the result of his encounter with Stell. After the bailiff swore him in, he helped Ryan into a chair in the witness box. Mr. Simpson, Jack said after briefly questioning him about his rehabilitation, can you tell the court what happened? Yes, Ryan replied. I was walking down Euclid Road when a car came off the highway. Pretty damn close to me. It was so close I could have hit the hood. I said something to the driver, and the next thing I knew, she was swearing at me. Then she shot me. I see. Is the person you saw in that car in the courtroom? Asked Jack. Yes, that's her over there, said Ryan, pointing to Stell. Notice the witness is pointing at the defendant, said Jack so the jury and court reporter could hear. Your witness, he said to Donovan, half expecting him not to ask any questions since he hadn't had to cross-examine him yet. Donovan exhaled noisily and rose abruptly from his chair. He walked over to Ryan and regarded him for a few moments before he spoke. So, you claim that my client nearly hit you at the intersection, swore at you, and then shot you. Is that true? Yes, it is, Ryan replied. From what I understand from the report, it was pretty dark and the person who hit you was traveling at a high rate of speed. Are you absolutely sure my client is the person who shot you? Asked Donovan. Absolutely, Ryan hissed. She was right there, closer to me than you are right now, and I'll never forget those crazy eyes as long as I live. Donovan pondered Ryan's statement for a moment before replying. Crazy, he said, looking at the jury for blank stares. Thank you, Mr. Simpson. That will be all. Ryan was removed, and Jack called Derek to the witness stand. Derek made his way to the witness stand where he was sworn in and took his seat. He looked at Stell, who refused to meet his gaze. Teresa gathered her notes and approached Derek. After a brief introduction and questioning about his recovery, Teresa began her questioning by asking Derek to recall the events of the night he was shot. When I came in, the defendant was at home. She was upset about the divorce petition I handed her earlier that day. I let her know that I had had enough of her infidelity and told her that she should pack her things and leave. I went to a bar and had a couple of drinks to give her time to pack up and leave. After a while, she called me. She said she wanted to talk before she left. I agreed and went back home. I realized she had been drinking, but decided to give her some time to make her argument. About 10 minutes later, Austin Dickerson arrived. Stell shouted for him to come in. He seemed as embarrassed to see me as I was to see him. He sat down at the table with us. A few words were said, mostly to Stell. Then she pulled my 9mm pistol from her lap and shot Austin Dickerson in the chest. I reacted instantly and got up from my chair. I didn't get far enough away before she shot me. My next memory was waking up in the hospital, he said. The defense argues that the defendant was not in her right mind when she shot, Teresa said. Do you agree with that assertion? Donovan quickly objected before Derek could answer. It's speculation, Your Honor, he said. The witness is an attorney, not a mental health professional. Sustained, the judge said. Your Honor, as the defendant's spouse, Mr. Matheson probably knows her better than anyone else. If anyone can adequately describe her state of mind at the time of the shooting, it is he, Teresa replied. The judge considered her arguments, then nodded. Very well, counselor. Restate your question, please. Thank you, Teresa said, and turned to Derek again. Mr. Matheson, as the spouse of the defendant, can you describe to the court your best assessment of her state of mind at the time of the shooting? When I returned, she seemed soft, gentle. After Dickerson arrived, she changed. She was depressed and upset about both me and Dickerson. I can understand that given the circumstances. Getting divorce papers, especially for infidelity, can have that effect. However, I wouldn't have thought she'd be angry enough to shoot someone. It was the last thing I expected. Thank you, Teresa said and turned to Donovan. Your witness. Donovan exhaled noisily, then stood up and walked over to the witness stand. I'm glad to see you're recovering, he said to Derek, trying to melt the ice. Thank you, Derek replied. You said you served the defendant with divorce papers the day of the shooting. Is that true? Asked Donovan. That's correct, Derek brushed it off. I have a copy of your statement, Mr. Matheson, Donovan stated, holding up the folder. You cited her infidelity as the reason. However, you were aware of your wife's previous affairs, were you not? Objection! Irrelevant, Jack shouted. Your Honor, the divorce is central to this incident, and to my client's state of mind at the time. Besides, the prosecution has already made the divorce part of this case, Donovan objected. The judge furrowed his eyebrows, mulling over Donovan's words. Very well, counselor, the judge said with a slight nod. Overruled. Proceed. Donovan smirked, turning back to Derek. He smelled blood and decided to act defeated. According to the motion you filed, the trust you set up owns everything, including my client's house, car, and her real estate business, and you are the sole trustee. Is that correct? Yes. Everything is perfectly legal and not against the law, Derek replied evenly. I know it is. I've double-checked everything. Basically, you set this whole thing up to leave my client as destitute as possible. And it looks like you've been working on this for quite some time. This is cross-examination, Your Honor. Is there a question in here somewhere? Protested Jack. I've wondered that myself, counselor, agreed the judge, and then turned sternly to Donovan. Do you have a question for the witness? Yes, Your Honor, Donovan said and turned to Derek. How long have you known about my client's extramarital affair? At least 5 years, Derek answered. Everyone in the courtroom heard the defendant's obvious whimper, though she didn't look up. And in all that time you never took any action. Why? It doesn't matter, exclaimed Jack. Derek turned to the judge and answered before he could pass judgment. I would like to answer that question, Your Honor. The judge stared at him intently, and Derek could almost see in his eyes how he was quickly weighing all the legal pros and cons and carefully considering how it might look on appeal. Finally, he said, Very well, please do so. This may seem strange, but I loved Stella as much as I hated what she was doing. I was hoping she'd put it all out of her mind and we could move on with our lives, but when I found out about her latest affair with Dickerson, I knew it would never end, Derek explained. He sighed heavily before continuing. I had to put an end to it, so I put my plan into action and forced her to sue. I didn't want to end up in poverty because of her crimes against our marriage, so I confess I set things up so that the consequences were quite dire. I would have been willing to negotiate. That is what I expected when I returned to the house. For a moment, he looked deeply saddened. If I hadn't hoped for regret, for remorse, I would have sued long ago. Did you have any idea how it might affect her? How it might affect her? Asked Donovan sharply, turning to the jury. Objection. Call for speculation, Jack immediately exclaimed. Sustained. Snap. During the time you've been married to my client, have you ever been violent toward her? Before Jack could object, Derek blurted out, Never. I never laid a finger on her. Was she ever violent to you? Donovan answered quietly and clearly, like an assassin's knife. Derek froze in place for a split second, though he chastised himself for not expecting such a thing. His estimation of Donovan's abilities went up by an order of magnitude. Well, here goes. Has my client ever hit you, thrown things at you, or even yelled at you? The witness answers the question, the judge ordered after Derek stammered. Derek hesitated and reluctantly answered, Before she tried to kill me? No. Donovan pretended he couldn't hear well. I'm sorry about that. Could you repeat that a little louder for the jury? Derek made his best impassive face. No, before she shot me, my wife had never been violent toward me. Never? No. If I had the slightest suspicion she was going to shoot me, I certainly wouldn't have gone home to talk. Donovan looked at Derek and only then nodded. He was beginning to see a slightly different picture from Derek's testimony than the one Stell had presented, and he didn't like it. "No further questions for the witness, Your Honor," he said quietly before taking his seat. The judge dismissed Derek, who stepped off the witness stand and saw Stell glaring at him, flashing one of her smug smirks. That bitch wasn't just playing her part for the jury, she knew what she was doing. Jack's next witness was Dr. Allison Chambers, the forensic psychologist who had examined Stell to determine her fitness to stand trial and to determine if she was indeed temporarily insane at the time she shot Austin and Derek. Dr. Chambers, you had the opportunity to examine the defendant to determine if she was unable to distinguish right from wrong at the time of her actions. Is that correct? Asked Jack. Correct, Allison replied. Can you tell us what metric you used to make that determination? Asked Jack. Sure. I used the Rogers Criminal Responsibility Rating Scale. I see. Can you explain to the jury what that assessment includes? Asked Jack. Allison briefly, but somewhat confusingly, explained the nature of the assessment, and Jack did his best to make sure the jury understood it as best he could. He noticed that the eyes of some of the jurors began to glaze over as Allison gave her verbose explanation. Thank you for your explanation, Doctor, Jack said when Allison paused. What conclusions did you draw from your examination of the defendant? He asked, hoping to get the jury's attention again. Although the defendant was clearly upset about the terms of the divorce, my analysis showed that at the time of the incident, not only was she capable of determining what was right and wrong, but she believed her actions were justified. So she knew what she was doing at that moment. Is that your professional assessment, Doctor? Asked Jack, seeing the jury perk up at her earlier statement. Not only did she know what she was doing, but I believe she planned it, Allison replied sincerely. Planned it? Are you sure about that, Doctor? Asked Jack, feeling relieved that the jury had refocused. Yes, I'd even say she felt as if she deserved her extramarital affairs. Objection, exclaimed Donovan. That's mere speculation on the part of the witness. The test results are irrefutable, Allison replied, before the judge could intervene. They can only be interpreted in one way. The judge, slightly angered, banged his gavel. Overruled. This is an expert witness assessing the defendant's state of mind. You may challenge him on cross-examination. Thank you, Your Honor. Jack looked again at the doctor who sat in the witness box, cold as a cucumber. So, Doctor, if the defendant had taken the murder weapon from a safe and legal storage place, hidden it with her, and retrieved it at some point in the argument, would that constitute premeditation in your opinion? Donovan frowned, trying to formulate a possible objection but couldn't. Premeditation didn't rule out temporary insanity, but it didn't help him either. Yes, based on several examples, if the defendant didn't have a deadly intent, such as simply wanting to scare or threaten someone, the bullets would have been removed. The defendant did not do that. Therefore, we can conclude that the original intent was lethal. Thank you, Doctor, Jack said. Your witness, he said to Donovan. Doctor, the test on the basis of which you are assessing my client's degree of criminal responsibility was conducted 3 weeks after the crime was committed. Is that correct? She thought for a moment as if going over a calendar in her mind, then nodded. Yes, just about 3 weeks later. If the test assesses a person's level of criminal responsibility at the time they take it, how do you extrapolate the results to their state of mind at the time of the crime? The test is supposed to measure a person's fundamental character, and it's assumed to be consistent. So, theoretically, if that assumption is not true on a case-by-case basis, is it possible that a person who has been subjected to severe stress, or at least much more stress than they are used to dealing with, has become hot or coldly irrational? Then the test might give a different assessment. At the time the crime was committed, then say 3 weeks later, Jack looked uncomfortable and his face flickered, as if he were trying to formulate an objection that wouldn't make his own expert witness look weak. The silence dragged on. The judge said, "The witness answers the question. While it has not been rigorously proven that a person's fundamental character cannot change, just as it has not been proven that each person's fingerprints are unique, it is conclusively proven by extensive testing So a loving mother who has a nervous breakdown and kills her child was always capable of murder and was never a truly loving mother? Several jurors stared at her, and at least one looked deeply puzzled. Donovan suppressed a smile. All he needed was one. My professional judgment is that the test fairly assessed the defendant's basic character traits, whether they were expressed at the time of the crime, before, or after. That doesn't answer the question. Do I have to repeat it? The doctor looked visibly uncomfortable, then finally said quietly, the mother would be assessed as someone always capable of murder but suppressing or ignoring it until a trigger event occurs. Triggering event. He looked at the jury. Doctor, who signs your checks? Asked Donovan. The jury turned away from the doctor. I don't understand your question, counselor, Allison replied indifferently. After all, such a question came up at every trial. It's simple, doctor, Donovan replied sharply. Who do you work for? I work for the county behavioral health department. So your paycheck comes from the same agency that's trying to convict my client. Thank you, doctor. That will be all. Donovan was too fast for Jack to object or for the judge to have time to press the gavel. The jury is asked to disregard counsel's last statement. Counsel, would you like to rephrase your last statement? No, Your Honor, he replied with a poker face, knowing that to ignore was something some jurors couldn't do. After the judge dismissed Allison, Jack announced that the next piece of evidence would be the videotape taken during the crime. Donovan knew that the videotape was legitimate and what it depicted, but he protested vehemently anyway. The judge overruled Donovan's protests and ordered the video to be shown to the jury. Watching the video on a large monitor, the jury watched with fascination. The video began with Stell reading the divorce papers. She put the papers aside and shouted across the room, "That son of a bitch!" Stell poured more whiskey into her empty glass and took a long sip. "If that bastard wants a war, by God, I'll give him one," she declared angrily. Then she burst into an angry laugh. The jury watched as Stell made 2 phone calls. The first was addressed to Austin. "Hi, honey," she purred when Austin answered. They could only hear her side of the conversation. "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. I just got served with divorce papers and I was really upset. Listen, could you come over to my house? I'd really like to see you." "No, Derek's not here." "Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. You're so sweet." Stell ended the call, and the jury watched as she dialed another number. "Hey, Derek. Listen, I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes before I leave the house. Do you think you could spare me just 5 minutes, please?" "Oh, that's great. I'm so sorry about what happened. Okay, I'll see you soon." With that, she ended the conversation. The jury watched as Stell grabbed the gun, loaded it with a full magazine, and slipped around into the chamber. Then she sat back down at the kitchen table with an evil glint in her eyes. "Those bastards are going to pay for tricking me," she growled and took another sip of her drink. The time on the videotape shifted 2 hours, and the jury saw Derek enter the kitchen. "Come on in, honey," Stell said on the video. "Have a seat. I'm afraid I drank all your scotch. You'll have to find something else." "That's okay. I feel good right now," Derek replied. "Then have a seat. We'll start in a minute." Derek sat down, and for 10 minutes they stared at each other in awkward silence. Then the doorbell rang. "Come in, Austin," Stell called out. Derek turned around in confusion and saw that Austin had entered the house. Austin looked just as confused when he saw Derek at the table. "Austin, come in and have a seat," Stell said. She smiled as Austin walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. "Well, here we are," Stell said. "Wonderful company. I want you both to know that I'm grateful to finally know what you are. One of you is a predatory little prick, and the other is a sneaky, cowardly bastard. You can decide for yourselves which one of you is which. As for me, I don't seem to have any prospects. My business is no longer my business. My lover is no longer my lover. My husband has declared that he is no longer my husband. I am now alone, destitute, and have no feelings for any of you. Derek, I can't believe you spent so much time and energy setting all this up. Why didn't you just talk to me when you found out about Jackson? We could have worked things out. It didn't have to come to this." "Estelle, it wasn't and won't be a comeback," Derek replied. "You know my position on fidelity. When you let Jackson entertain you in his office, That was the end of it. We broke up. I just had to protect myself. Stell didn't react in any way to Derek's words and turned her anger on Austin. You, Austin, I thought we had something. We did, Austin replied. We had great sex that cost me more than it should have. Stell smiled and removed the gun from her lap. She wasted no time. Pointing the gun at Austin, she fired once, hitting him in the center of the chest. The jury gasped as Austin fell backwards onto the floor. They watched Derek get up from his chair and saw Stell shoot again. After Derek fell to the floor, Stell calmly drained the last glass of whiskey and set it back on the table. That was the end of the video, and Jack addressed the jury. Shortly thereafter, the defendant stole $100,000 from her husband's safe, stole her lover's car and her husband's gun, and then left them both for dead. Shortly thereafter, she shot and killed Ryan Simpson simply because he was nearby. As you can see from this video, the defendant was clearly in control of her faculties and deliberately set her husband and lover on fire. Jack paused spectacularly and watched the jury's reaction to the video. Stell didn't look up, but she could feel their gaze on her and she suddenly felt sick to her stomach. The prosecution rests its case, Your Honor, Jack finally said. The judge recessed for the rest of the day and reminded the jury not to discuss the case with anyone. Next chapter. But I don't want to die, Stell howled, when Donovan informed her that Jack was seeking the death penalty. And I'm sure your husband, Mr. Simpson, and Mr. Dickerson didn't want to die either, Donovan reminded her. Whose side are you on? Asked Stell angrily, her face reddening. Of course I'm on your side. Otherwise I would have dropped your case long ago. I'm doing my best to keep you out of the death chamber, but you're not having an easy time of it. I told you from the beginning that the defense of temporary insanity is very unlikely. That video that the prosecution showed today has effectively reversed that opinion. So what do I do now? Asked Stell in desperation. What if I apologize to the judge, promise never to do it again? Donovan grinned grimly. That might work in other jurisdictions, but not here, he told her. Let me talk to the district attorney. Maybe I can convince him to accept a plea bargain. It will mean life in prison, but you'll still be alive. Yes. Some life at least, Stell remarked wryly. Couldn't you subpoena me and give me a chance to tell the jury how utterly trapped and desperate I felt? Maybe I could ask them how they would feel if their whole life was gone. Ask them if they'd start thinking clearly? Donovan pretended to ponder the question, then shook his head. I understand your point, but it's a terrible gamble. In our state, defendants aren't allowed to read their statements to the jury. If you take the stand, the prosecution can cross-examine you. At that point, any question, hesitation, or loss of composure will more than wipe out any sympathy you might have elicited. I tried to get at least one aggrieved wife on the jury, but luck smiled on me and the prosecution turned them all away. The same thing happened to me. I challenged anyone who looked even remotely like an unfaithful husband. I've never seen such a bland and impartial jury. Stell stared at the blank wall as if she saw the shadow of the guillotine or the gallows, and her face turned gray and frightened. Then I really am in deep shit, aren't I? Donovan couldn't find the words, so he just nodded. Next chapter. A little late for a plea bargain, Donovan, Jack said as Donovan presented his arguments. What if my client agrees to plead guilty to all the other charges and accepts summary judgment? She'll save the taxpayers a lot of money, Jack replied. But she has to pay for what she did to her husband and Mr. Dickerson. I can't let that go unchallenged. You've seen the videotape and heard Dr. Chambers. You know that the defense of temporary insanity is almost impossible to prove. But she's not going away, Jack, Donovan objected. She'd be in prison for life. Jack considered Donovan's words for a moment before replying. I like you, Donovan, and I've always respected you. You're a good lawyer who drew a shitty case. I certainly don't envy you that job. But you know I can't let it go. This is not a minor offense committed by a young offender, and you know it. Your client deliberately set a trap to kill her husband and lover. And that's your final word? Donovan asked. That's my last word, Donovan. I'm sorry, Jack replied. Okay, Donovan sighed, defeated. I had to try. I know. I'll see you in court tomorrow. Next chapter. The next day, Donovan presented his side of the story. Most of his witnesses were people Stell had worked with before the shooting, and they all testified to her professionalism as a real estate agent and a non-violent, stable person. Jack decided not to cross-examine, deeming it unnecessary for his case. Finally, Donovan called Dr. Jacqueline Kincaid, a 65-year-old psychiatrist who had questioned Stell before trial. Dr. Kincaid, you had the opportunity to interview my client, correct? Asked Donovan. Correct, she replied with a slight smile. And what were your conclusions? Under the circumstances, there was no way she could tell right from wrong. She had just been served with divorce papers. Her lover had rejected her. Her husband was cutting her out of his life. She had lost her car, her business. Everything she held dear was gone, and her life was upside down. She was desperate to regain control of her life, Jacqueline says. So you think she was not in her right mind at that moment when she shot her husband and lover? Absolutely not. And given the tension of the situation, she was probably not in her right mind until she was taken into custody. That would explain her actions after the shooting. I see, Donovan agreed. Thank you, Dr. Kincaid. Your witness, he said to Jack. Jack approached the witness stand with a folder in his hands. Dr. Kincaid, you were quite critical of Roger's criminal responsibility rating scale, correct? He asked. Yes, I have and continue to criticize them, she replied. Could you explain why? Simply put, I believe they inadequately assess the whole person in every situation, she said. People often react to stressful situations in ways they wouldn't in normal life, such as soldiers facing the reality of combat for the first time. I see, Jack said. You've become quite a prolific writer over the past 2 decades, haven't you? Yes, Jacqueline stated proudly. And isn't it true that some of your work has been controversial in nature? Some say so, Jacqueline agreed almost proudly. For example, this essay you wrote in 2004, Jack said. Let me read a small portion of it to refresh your memory if you don't mind. Please, she said with a smile. I'll read it straight through so I don't get the quotes mixed up. For women, spelled W-O-M-Y-N, to be truly free from oppressive masculinity, they must be free to eliminate that masculinity by any means necessary. Do you remember writing that? Yes, I remember, Jacqueline replied, somewhat nervously. The jury looked at her more closely because of the sudden change in her demeanor. In fact, a number of your essays in the early 2000s praised misandry. Hatred of men, didn't they? Asked Jack. It was a particularly dark period in my life, Jacqueline said quietly, not looking at anyone. I can imagine it was. According to my research, you were going through a difficult divorce from an abusive husband at the time, weren't you? Yes, I was going through it, Jacqueline replied deafeningly. I hope that situation was resolved, Jack said in response. Yes, it has been resolved. I met my current partner and have been happily together ever since. I'm glad to hear that. Have you given up some of the controversial positions you've taken in the past? No, not publicly anyway, she added with some reluctance. And the statement I just read, do you still adhere to it? There was a pregnant pause as she apparently struggled with herself. Before the judge could instruct her to answer the question, she finally blurted out, I have to study it in full context first. I see, Jack said. He glanced at the jury and saw their reactions, which were mostly skeptical. Smiling to himself, he turned to Jacqueline again. Thank you, doctor. That's all for now. After the judge removed Jacqueline, who hurried back to her seat, Donovan stood up and continued to make his case. It's relatively early, the judge said. Is there time for closing arguments after lunch? I think so, Your Honor, Jack said. Donovan agreed, and the trial was recessed for lunch. When the trial resumed, Jack began his presentation by reminding the jury of the events of that fateful evening. He emphasized that Stell had deliberately trapped both Austin and her husband in order to kill them both in cold blood. He then reminded them of the other charges against her, to which she had already pleaded guilty. By the time he finished, the jury was ready to burn her at the stake. Donovan's closing statement was much shorter. He didn't dispute any evidence of her actions, but emphasized that Stell's reaction was triggered by Derek's divorce proceedings and reiterated that she was not in her right mind at the time, citing Jacqueline's testimony. He ended with a plea for mercy for his client, who had literally lost everything in one day. The judge instructed the jury and sent them into a room where they were to deliberate and determine Stell's fate. It took them almost 2 days to sort through the evidence and testimony. Not only were they to determine her guilt, but they were to rule on Jack's motion, recognizing the special circumstances that paved the way for a possible death sentence. 12 men and women with scowling faces came out of the deliberation room and took seats in the jury box. The foreman handed a piece of paper to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. The latter opened the paper and read it, frowning his eyebrows. He slowly closed the paper and handed it back. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" he asked. "Yes," the foreman of the jury announced. "Will the defendant please rise?" the judge asked. Stell and Donovan stood up as the judge addressed the jury again. "And what have you decided?" "We have found the defendant, Estelle Matheson, guilty on all charges, Your Honor." "And what have you decided on the motion for special circumstances?" the judge asked. "We have concluded that special circumstances exist, Your Honor," replied the foreman. "And that verdict and conclusion was unanimous?" "Yes, Your Honor." Stell shuddered and slowly shook her head as reality came crashing down on her. Donovan asked for a vote to affirm the verdict. The decision was unanimous and the judge allowed it. One by one, all the jurors stood up and announced their verdict. Defeated, Donovan sat back in her seat. "Thank you for your service, ladies and gentlemen. Estelle Matheson, you have been found guilty of all charges against you. You will be remanded into custody until your sentencing hearing, which will take place 3 weeks from today. Court is adjourned," he stated as he lowered the gavel. 2 female correctional officers led a badly shaken Stell out of the courtroom. Donovan followed them. After they left, Derek walked over to Jack and held out his hand, which Jack accepted. "Thank you," Derek said. "You're welcome," Jack replied. "I know this whole thing hasn't been easy for you. Believe it or not, the hardest part is yet to come. Would you like to address the court at the sentencing hearing?" "I'd like to," Derek said. "Great. By the way, how are you holding up?" "I'm doing okay. The nightmares aren't helping much." Jack pulled a business card out of his briefcase and held it out to Derek. "Give this lady a call. In my humble opinion, she's the best in the business." "Thanks, I will," Derek said, and put the business card in his pocket without reading it. "My pleasure," Jack replied. He sighed, looked at the door where Stella had been led away, and shook his head. "All this for what? Talk about bad decisions." Yeah, Derek sighed. They said their goodbyes, and Derek headed home, where he celebrated Stell's conviction with a bottle of his favorite scotch. 3 weeks later, Derek was back in the courtroom for the sentencing phase of Stell's trial. Austin's parents and younger sister were also present. When Stell was led into the courtroom, Derek almost didn't recognize her. She looked older and shabbier. Upon entering the room, the judge announced the start of the session. Jack argued in favor of the death penalty, reminding the judge that the evidence clearly showed that Stell had acted with premeditated intent and malice. Donovan objected, telling the court that executing Stell would solve nothing and would not bring Austin Dickerson back to life. The judge then gave Austin's family members the floor. His elderly parents and younger sister stated that while they did not approve of Austin's actions, Stell had deprived them of their son and brother. For that, in their opinion, she should pay for it with her life. Then it was Derek's turn. Stell couldn't meet his gaze as he stood before the judge. "Your Honor, I admit that I am a flawed human being, and my reaction to my ex-wife's infidelity may seem rather extreme to some. But I loved her enough to disregard her previous behaviors. And in case anyone is wondering, I never cheated on her, raised my hand to her, or treated her badly. However, she killed her lover in front of me, tried to kill me, and almost succeeded. I still have breathing problems. I've had pneumonia twice, and I have nightmares almost every night. I tried to move on with my life, but I never could. Thanks to what she did, I have serious trust issues in addition to my physical ailments. While she's alive, she could escape. She could be paroled, amnestied, have her sentence commuted, or released on orders due to prison overcrowding. God only knows what. So I will have to be on guard every minute for the rest of my life. Her crime will haunt me no matter how long I have left to live. I've never been a big fan of the death penalty, Your Honor, until now. I personally do not believe that a life sentence is enough, and I respectfully request that you sentence her to death. Thank you for listening to all of us." "Thank you all for your sincere statements," the judge said. "I know this has not been easy for each of you. I will review your statements and the reports from the district attorney's office before I render my decision. Court is adjourned for 30 minutes. He banged his gavel and left the bench, heading for his chambers. Gathering his thoughts, Derek stepped out into the hallway and looked out the window overlooking the parking lot. "Did you call that counselor I told you about?" asked Jack, standing next to his old friend. "No, I didn't have time, and I was trying to work up the courage to do it," Derek admitted. Jack sighed heavily, mulling over Derek's answer. "You have to make that call, Derek. If you don't, it's going to gnaw at you for the rest of your life." "Yeah, you're probably right," Derek said. "Of course I'm right," Jack joked. "That's why I get the big bucks. We better get back to the house. The judge doesn't like to be kept waiting." They made it back to the courtroom a few minutes before the judge returned and brought the court to order. He placed his papers on the bench in front of him and turned to Stell. "Is there anything you want to say before sentencing?" the judge asked Stell. Stell looked nervously at Donovan, then nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Honor." "Please," she said in a subdued tone. "Very well. Proceed." Stell stood up and cleared her throat before she spoke. "First of all, I would like to apologize to everyone. I know I've hurt a lot of people, and I'm truly sorry. I've had a lot of time to think things through and realize that I've been selfish. I know I deserve to go to jail for what I did, but I'm asking the court for mercy. I promise to make amends, Your Honor." The judge nodded sadly as she fell silent. "Is that all?" "Yes, Your Honor," Stell replied. "I believe you when you say you are sorry. However, that does not mitigate the sentence I am about to impose. I know that you have already pleaded guilty and have been sentenced on the remaining charges against you. In light of that sentence, I have been informed that the state will take no further action against you. By order of the court, you are to be immediately taken to the Women Correctional Facility, where you will be put to death at a time and manner appointed by the state. May God have mercy on your soul." "Court is dismissed," the judge said, emphasizing his sentence with a gavel. The shaken Stell burst into tears and wept loudly, and Donovan tried to comfort her. Stell paid no attention to him and turned angrily to Derek. You took everything from me. My home, my business, my marriage, even my life. My blood is on your hands. All because of a few lousy bastards. Are you happy now, you spineless bastard?" She screamed, tears streaming down her face. Shocked, everyone in the courtroom turned to Derek, who was clearly embarrassed by the outburst. "No, Stell, I'm not happy. Not at all," he said calmly and quietly. Two large sheriff's deputies grabbed Stell and dragged her out of the courtroom, Donovan trailing behind. Derek saw the reporters in the back of the courtroom furiously scribbling on their notepads and realized that they would soon demand his testimony. Jack stood beside his friend and gently took his hand. "Come with me. We'll avoid those vultures," he said. "Thanks," Derek replied. They walked out of the courtroom, avoiding reporters looking for quotes to use on the evening news. "Well, the case is done, except for the appeals, of course," Jack said as they walked out of the building. "Yeah," Derek sighed. "Do me a favor and call that counselor." "Today," Jack told Derek firmly. "I will," Derek promised. Next chapter. Back at home, Derek changed into his suit and poured a glass of whiskey. Sitting at the kitchen table, he glanced at the chair Austin had been sitting in when Stell had shot him. Although the blood had been cleaned up, he could still see it on the floor in his mind's eye and remembered the searing pain he had felt when the bullet had hit him. Suddenly, he began to shake uncontrollably. The shaking started in the middle of his chest and increased until every muscle in his body shook. He fell to the floor and lay like that until the shaking subsided. As he caught his breath, he remembered that Jack had advised him to call that counselor. When he could, he went back to the kitchen chair and pulled out the card Jack had given him. It had only one word written on it: Rhamnusia. "Weird," Derek said, looking for a number. Finding none, he turned the card over and saw that the back was blank. When he looked at the front of the card again, he suddenly saw a phone number. "What the hell?" asked Derek. His phone had fallen out of his pocket and was lying on the floor. He picked it up and dialed the number on the card. "Counselor Rhamnusia, this is Adrestia speaking," announced a female voice. Derek began. "Hello, Derek Matheson," the woman said. "I've been expecting your call." "What?" asked Derek, shocked. "How? You called to make an appointment. I have an opening in 45 minutes. That time is yours. Don't be late. I appreciate punctuality." "But where are you located?" stammered Derek, perplexed. "My address is on the card, and on your GPS. 45 minutes from now, Derek. Be here. Sure, Derek stammered. The call ended, and Derek stared at the card. How did the number and address suddenly appear? And how did this woman know who was calling? Derek shook his head, put the phone in his pocket, grabbed his coat and keys, and walked out of the house. The dull ache in his chest made the whole thing seem even more surreal than the shooting. When Derek arrived at the address listed on the GPS, he noticed a large Victorian house that seemed oddly out of place in the neighborhood. He got out of the car and climbed the steps to the front porch. The door opened before he could ring the bell, and a young woman who reminded him of a college cheerleader stood before Derek. "Just in time, Mr. Matheson," the woman announced. "Please come with me." Derek followed the young woman up the spiral staircase and entered the cluttered office. There was a large desk in the room, and the shelves were lined with ancient books and scrolls. Scrolls? What kind of counselor is this, Derek thought. "Please have a seat," the woman said, pointing to a cushioned chair in front of the desk. "Would you like some tea?" "That sounds good, please," Derek said uncertainly as he watched her prepare the tea. He appreciated her look and wondered again how old she really was. "I added some honey. I understand you like that kind of tea," she said, holding out a cup of hot tea to him. "Yes, thank you." "How do you know that?" The situation was so surreal that he felt like pinching himself. "I know a lot about you, Derek. May I call you Derek?" "Of course, so what should I call you?" "Most of my clients just call me Dr. A, since my name can be hard for some to pronounce," she said. He was surprised but tried not to show it. "Doctor? You're a doctor?" She smiled coquettishly. "Yes. Don't let my appearance fool you. I'm much older than I appear, and I have doctorates in several disciplines." "I see," Derek said, puzzled. He took a tentative sip of the tea and found it quite tasty and relaxing. "And that man in the picture on your desk?" "That's my husband, Max. He's a private investigator." "So you've been following me?" asked Derek, suddenly feeling irritated, despite the tea. Adrestia laughed at Derek's statement. "He didn't, but I was following. I've been following your case for a while now. In fact, I was the one who asked Jack to have you contact me." "Oh? Why?" Derek was starting to get nervous. What did this woman know? "If you've been following my case, you know that my ex-wife tried to kill me. She killed her lover right in front of me." "Yes, I know. And she's on death row right now. But you're not exactly blameless in all this, are you?" "What are you implying?" asked Derek, frowning. "Everything I've done is legal and not against the law." "I'm not implying anything. Yes, your actions were legal. What I question is your motive and timing. After all, you had known of your wife's infidelity for years, had you not?" "Yes, I knew about it for some time," Derek replied cautiously. "And kept sleeping with her, taking her out to dinner, giving her birthday and anniversary cards, even some pretty nice Christmas presents, didn't you?" He tried to formulate his answer positively, but could not, as a growing sense of uneasiness pressed upon his soul. "It didn't take anything away from me, and I honestly, was hoping she'd just drop it. It was just a fling. Until Austin came along, and this one was different. I planned on making her pay for her history of betrayals, but this forced me to. So you waited until she was handed papers that would take everything away from her, including her business. I know you told Detective Branson that you wanted to punish her, but that wasn't the whole truth, was it?" asked Adrestia sharply. "I don't know what you're talking about," Derek replied, stammering. She looked at him in a way that made him look even older and tougher. "Of course you do, Derek. You knew how lucrative your wife's real estate business was. You helped her organize it, remember? And you wanted it for yourself. So you tolerated her infidelity until you felt it was time to act. That's the real truth, isn't it?" Derek felt something stirring in his chest, as if he had no choice but to tell this woman the whole truth. How did she know all this? "Come on, Derek. Justice may be blind, but it's not stupid," Adrestia said, with a slight smirk and beautiful eyes that were suddenly hard and shiny. "That money in your safe didn't belong to the client, did it? You put them there as bait, didn't you? You hoped to use them as leverage, perhaps to bribe Stell, didn't you?" "Yes," Derek admitted. Suddenly his chest felt normal, and he sighed with relief. "See, the truth really is liberating. You just didn't expect Stell to take your gun and shoot you. You also didn't anticipate her taking that money." No, I didn't. I didn't think she was capable of that, Derek said. So what are you going to do now? You mean, am I going to go to the authorities? I'm sure a defense attorney would have a field day here. But no. For starters, you haven't done anything illegal. Immoral, perhaps, but not illegal. I also doubt my methods will satisfy their rules of evidence. And I agree that Stell should pay for Austin's murder. So what do you want me to do? Asked Derek. Dissolve the contract, give up everything you've earned from the real estate business, then sell it. Perhaps you could sell it to the employees at a discount. I'm sure they would appreciate the gesture. Then donate all the money to her appeal. What, you want me to help her get free? I can't do that. I didn't say that, did I, Derek? She's going to appeal her sentence. It costs a lot of money and could take a long time. Trust me, she's going to suffer in prison for a very long time. And it will make you feel a lot better. What if I say no? Asked Derek. Do you really want me to show you? Asked Adrestia quietly. The light in the room dimmed slightly, but not the light, just the light. And she took a step toward him. To his eyes, she bore no resemblance to a cheerleader. Seeing the look on his face, she nodded. Very good. Adrestia stood in front of Derek and placed her hands on his head. Suddenly, Derek found himself on the sidewalk in the middle of the city. It was deep night, and he saw a man wrapped in a tattered blanket slouching in front of the entrance to a closed store. What is it? Asked Derek, seeing Adrestia standing beside him. Your future, or one possible version of your future. Do you see this person? Yes, Derek answered. Who is he? Take a closer look, Adrestia said. Don't worry, he can't see you. Derek approached the man and stepped back as he raised his head. His face was cracked and dirty, and his beard was scraggly, but Derek recognized the man immediately. It was him. While Derek watched him, the man pulled an unfinished cigarette from his pocket, brought it to his mouth, and lit it. After taking a couple puffs, he began to choke. Dropping the cigarette on the sidewalk, the man rolled onto his side and coughed. He then began shaking uncontrollably, dark green mucus coming out of his mouth and nose. After a few minutes, the man stopped coughing and shaking. Derek moved closer and heard the man gasp and then hear nothing. His eyes glazed over, and Derek realized the man had just died. What happened? Why are you showing me this? Exclaimed Derek, thoroughly frightened. His consternation only intensified when she turned to him with empty eyes, similar to those of the one called the hang judge. He was once a powerful lawyer, but his greed and avarice took over. He owned a lucrative real estate company, but lost it when it was sued for illegal acts. He lost everything, the company, his license to practice law, his house, his car, everything. The man in front of you lived on the streets for 10 years and died in poverty. Her voice wasn't threatening. It was as empty as a freshly dug grave. So did your soon-to-be ex-wife. And now? He asked. And now he's dead. Derek, suddenly more angry than frightened, looked angrily into Adrestia's face. Who are you? Really? He demanded. Suddenly, Derek was in Adrestia's office and looked into her face. Do you really want to know, Derek? Asked Adrestia with soft menace, her eyes blazing. Yes, Derek replied. I need to know. As you wish, Adrestia said, and placed her hands on his head again. Derek gasped loudly as he looked at the scene that opened up before him. He saw Adrestia dressed in a toga, with a set of scales in one hand and a double-edged sword in the other. Beneath her sandal-clad feet, snakes wriggled, trying to bite each other. Around her on the ground lay crowds of people in various states of mind, begging for mercy and forgiveness, but she seemed deaf to their pleas. Strange winged creatures flew in the sky above her head, and lightning danced on the top of a tall mountain in the distance. Adrestia removed her hands, leaving a stunned Derek shaking in his chair. He looked at her with eyes widened with fear. Do you understand now, Derek? She asked. Yes. Yes, Derek replied, more frightened than ever. Why are you doing this? She didn't lift a finger, but her presence, the feeling of power, filled the room as sharply as if she still held that horribly sharp sword in her hand. In a normal situation, I wouldn't. While I do handle infidelity cases, I usually only intervene if the victim is being treated extremely unfairly and denied justice by duly constituted government agencies. And they are crying out for justice. In this particular case, I have received a request that I have decided to honor. You are distantly related to a rather famous Texas Ranger, are you not? Yes, at least my grandmother always said I was. Anyway, he asked for clemency for you. The higher powers have decided that you are being given one chance at redemption. One chance. So I'm offering that one chance here and now. Take it or leave. Oh God. And you know what you need to do, right? Yes, I do, Derek replied hotly. Good. Take some of this tea with you. Drink a cup in the morning and another in the evening. It will help your lungs heal and the shaking should stop as well. All will be well if you keep your promises. Consider yourself lucky, Derek. Not many people get a second chance with me. I can imagine, Derek said. Come on, I'll walk you out. And remember, Derek, I'll be watching you, she replied. If you ever want to talk, call the number on my card. I'm always in touch. Thanks, Derek said, secretly hoping he'd never have to return to this place. Leaving the Victorian house, Derek felt as if a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulders. It was probably best for his peace of mind not to look in the rearview mirror as he drove away. As the Victorian mansion disappeared and was replaced by a dark and empty model home. Back home, he drank another cup of tea and slept better than he ever had since his injury. Next chapter. Epilogue. Derek began the process of dissolving the trust and began digging through Stell's files. He wished he had looked through them before transferring her company into the trust. He found a few problems in the old files and started digging deeper. The more he dug, the more he realized what a mess he had made. He cursed himself for not looking deeper before putting the company into the trust. Going through the current paperwork, he learned that the employees had continued Stell's old and bad ways of doing things. Then he remembered Stell complaining about being sued many times. He remembered the old adage that said that he who cheats on his spouse will also cheat in his business affairs. He spent every spare minute to unravel Stell's affairs and sent a substantial amount of money to several clients, hoping they wouldn't sue him. The office workers weren't very happy to see money they thought was owed to them being sent to former clients, but they would have to put up with it. Eventually, Derek managed to get the situation under control and found a competitor interested in buying the company. He gladly accepted the offer and donated the proceeds to Stell's appeal fund. By then, Stell had already lost her first appeal. An anti-death penalty organization had teamed up with a civil rights group to handle her subsequent appeals. Derek contacted them and donated money, as he had promised Adrestia. He drove to the women's correctional facility where Stell was being held to tell her what he had done. When the guards brought Stell into the visiting area, he was shocked. Stell looked as if she had aged 20 years in the few months she had spent in prison. She had lost a lot of weight and looked like a walking skeleton. "What the hell do you want?" she asked angrily, sitting down. "I heard you lost your first appeal," Derek said. "And you came here to gloat? Is that it?" Stell spat. "No, I just wanted to let you know that I sold your business and donated the proceeds to a new group that will be handling your case from now on," Derek said. "And why the hell would you do that?" replied Stell. "Call it motivated self-interest if you want. I felt it was the right thing to do, that's all," Derek told her. "So, how are you holding up? What do you care? You wanted me dead, so your wish was granted. Well, if you remember, you're the one who almost killed me. And you were the one who trashed Austin, remember?" Stell lowered her eyes and nodded. She sighed heavily and looked up again. "Yeah, I remember. So is this some kind of ploy to win back my favor or something?" "No, Stell, it's not. I just stopped by to let you know." "Well, thanks for that, at least." "You're welcome. You don't look well." "Are you okay?" asked Derek. And that seemed to bring her out of her thoughts again, and her face darkened. "What do you think? I'm stuck in this hole eating shit. I have a constant headache and no one gives a shit about it. And the last thing I need is your pity." "Of course," Derek said, standing up. "Goodbye, Stell, and good luck." "Screw you, asshole," Stell spat. Derek smiled, nodded his head, and left without another word. He could have said something sarcastic, but decided Stell wasn't worth the effort. Derek fulfilled his promise to Adrestia and felt calmer than he had in months. He left the prison feeling truly content for the first time in a year. 3 years later, Derek sat on the balcony of his relatively new luxury condominium, which he'd bought after selling the house he'd once shared with Stell. He brewed a tall mug of Adrestia tea, marveling at the fact that there were always 2 bags in the box she'd given him. He opened the Sunday paper, and as he sipped his tea, he found an interesting story. The legal team working on Stell's appeal had finally won. Her death sentence had been commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, when guards came for Stell and moved her to a shared cell, she was found dead on her bunk. Apparently, the report said, she died in her sleep. An autopsy conducted by the prison medical examiner revealed that she died of a brain aneurysm. Apparently, she hadn't been kidding about the headaches. Derek closed the newspaper and looked out at the lake, remembering the good times they had spent together. She had made a lot of bad decisions in her life, in her marriage and in her business, and she had paid dearly for it. Justice may be blind, but she's not stupid, he heard Adrestia's mental whisper. And she always wins. Let's drink to justice, Derek said, lifting his mug of tea. The end. If you want to continue watching my videos, they are coming out on my new channel. The link will be in the description or in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.